I feel like we've been critical at times when it was deserved, and I think that's important. It's our role, and if like this is wrapping up set 10, I want to wrap it up with what I think the set was about, which is like this was a really good set of TFT. It was not my favorite set ever, but it was a really good set of TFT. All the tournaments were really fun. All the metas were fun to watch. Like, TFT is scary because we change so regularly. I'm nervous for set 11. I don't know if I'm going to like it as much, but like, my God, did I have fun over the course of the last 4 months with set 10 of TFT. So thank you to everyone at Riot who made that happen, because it was really, really great. And thanks to you guys for like playing such great TFT, because it's fun to watch when you guys get invested at that level too. So thanks.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, the official podcast for all things high-level teamfight tactics. And this episode is the episode number 44. Today is March 6th, 2024. And it is Set 10 Wrapped. It's a different type of episode that we usually do. During the regular season, we have two kinds. And it's usually a preview for an event, and then we like recap/review an event. But today, we're going to do a look back on the entirety of the set, and then release not power rankings for like an upcoming event, but final rankings as voted on by the entirety of the peers of other players who believe, based on their performance, where they're actually ranked. If you follow another community like Super Smash Bros., for example, it's kind of like their final rankings of the competitive season. My name's Frodan. I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Bryce. Bryce, how are you doing? How did you recover your sleep schedule from Worlds?
No, not really, because like Worlds happened while like right when my wife got back from being gone for like a week. So she was in Barcelona, so she came back like super jet lagged. So I had to like take weird hours with the kids a little bit, but that's okay. It was worth it. It was so much fun. My God, did I have fun watching Worlds.
That's right, because today, one of our featured guests, we have two, is reigning world champion, and many people are crowning currently the greatest TFT player of all time. It is Milala. Milala, welcome back to the podcast.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
when you hear
this guy just like, wins every tournament. It's just
he's just like thanks guys. when you're
to be here,
when you hear people are like, man, Milala's the GOAT, or like this season's incredible, like what do you like feel like, nah, you guys are just like saying that because that's what people say when they're hyping someone up, or do you actually believe that? Do you feel like you had the confidence to say that, like, man, I'm number one, and you know this is putting me on a historical level of performance?
I mean, yeah, I definitely think like the set I had was like the GOAT set for sure so far. I kind of don't like buy too much into like I don't like buying too much into like I'm the greatest player of all time kind of type deal. Just because like I don't want to get into my head, like I don't really like dealing with too much external pressure.
Yeah,
I just like kind of playing my own game and just competing and trying to be the best in like the given moment.
Yeah, 100%. What was it like telling your family and friends? Were they watching at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. When you were winning? And then what was it like when they found out? Like your real life friends.
Yeah, so what happened was like after I went downstairs and my dad knew I won because he heard me singing and dancing upstairs. That's like what happens. They weren't really watching, but they like, so my parents go to like the Chinese websites to search up the game to get like the up-to-date news. And they're like, they saw much of the stuff that like the Chinese people were saying, because like they shared, like they were calling me like a nickname like me God or something. Yeah, and yeah, so that's how they found out. Yeah.
Oh wow, your parents don't even read the English forums; they read the CN forums. That's funny.
Yeah.
They can also download the CN tech for you. Just tell you all the. They can just translate all the guides.
Well, are you big in CN now? Because CN kind of adopts certain foreign players. Like Doublelift has always been really big there, for example. Like, do you think that like you're gonna have a bunch of CN fans for the rest of your career off this?
He does, Bryce.
Yeah. My friend. So like after Vegas, my friend Cups, he like did an interview for me after MSI, and he posted it right before World started.
Okay.
So yeah, it just like got like a decent amount of views, I think, especially after I won.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Milala's competitive season, and I mean, quite frankly, he has one of the least surprising results in this ranking. Just spoiler alert. I think most people know where he lands.
It's never been this obvious, ever. I mean, we've had good sets before, but it's just never been.
Yeah.
We literally, going into this ballot, I knew it wouldn't happen, but in the back of my head, someone, I think even said this out loud at some point, if anyone doesn't rank Milala 1, their ballot just gets taken away immediately.
Yeah, right? We might revoke
like,
their right.
Like, there's just no way you could keep someone on who doesn't put him on this set.
All right. Our second guest, sorry to keep you waiting, we got Dishsoap back on the podcast after I think a couple sets, a few sets. Now it's been a long time since you've been here.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I was on, but what's up? Hello.
It's great. It's great. It's awesome seeing your face. I feel like a lot of times we don't really get to see Dishsoap. In fact, I think I've seen your toes more recently than I've seen your face.
I mean that's not true. We like met a couple times, but
yeah, that's actually true. You're right. I meant more like on your stream, but
yeah.
That's good. Dishsoap, you're coming off the regionals win in a Worlds performance. Talk to me about the past couple of weeks for you.
I don't know. It was just a lot of prep. I don't know. I'm proud of myself. I think I probably could have made it to Final Lobby of Worlds. It was some really, really hard games, but I probably could have done it if I played a little bit better. After that, like 1/8, I kind of just punted it because, like, yeah, it was fucking over after that. But before that, I think there was a little bit of hope.
You were talking about how you're working a lot on your mental throughout this season, but I think it's also something that started earlier than Set 10. Can you walk a little bit about the journey that you've kind of been on lately in terms of approaching TFT? I mean, people joke about the monk, the Zen mindset, but it feels like that's something actively that you've been stressing a lot.
Like, I just kind of realized there's just like no point, like even if it's justified, getting angry at like something that happens that's bad to you. Like, there's just no point. Like, there's just no point getting mad. Like even for the longest time, I thought it didn't affect me, but I was just like, one day I told myself, like, okay, like, it probably affects you, you just don't know. So, like, just try your hardest to like, stay relaxed in the tournament. So
okay.
Do you think so? One thing specifically about your stream and your reactions on your stream is that you take bad beats historically in TFT. I think sometimes the hardest. Like, you have a reputation for like going on Kickatill and like going flamethrower and banning a bunch of people in chat and stuff like that. Do you think as part of this journey, like, it's hard? It's always been hard for me to interpret that because some part of it's just like competitive fire. You're so invested in the result, right? So how much of that do you think is good, and how much of that do you think plays into what you're talking about as a mind shift?
Oh, I mean, like, I definitely like still have the fire. It's mostly like just start tournament because like sometimes people are just like idiots and like they just need to be told they're not very. Never mind. But like you can say that I should just ignore them, but nah.
I love it. Okay, wait. Now, Milala, I want to pull you in on this topic for a second too, because I think mental has also been a big part of your journey in TFT. Like, a lot of the early appearances of yourself on the podcast, we talked about that stuff at length, that you were like struggling with it and you're trying to figure out how to work through it. You clearly have. I mean, my God, have you broken through that, right? Especially since your big issues historically have been final days. And it's like to go from that to just like every time you're on the final day, you're like winning or competing to win is a pretty insane transition. Can you talk about like what you went through and how you think you got there?
Yeah, I think like the final time I like super choked was actually in Set 8 regionals.
Yeah.
When I lost like my AVP world spot to Setsuko, I was like up like 6 or 7 placements, and then I went dead last on the final day. And I think like in that moment I thought like that was gonna be my peak. Like, I was so close to Worlds and I'm probably never gonna get there ever again. But then I guess what really changed was Vegas, because during Vegas I was behind in points the entire time, like 6th place. And I was like legitimately thinking to myself that 6th place isn't bad until I won the last Annie game. And then I was like, oh shit, like I won. And then I feel like I stopped feeling a little nervous because I knew in Vegas I feel like I had the most experience, but obviously Doubles was there and Kevin Parker was there and they have a bunch of experience, but I definitely feel like nerves didn't play that much of a factor for me on Vegas. And then when we went back to MSI, I think that's also was like this huge jumping point because I personally feel like that was probably like the most stacked tournament I've ever played in my life. And for me to be able to go toe to toe and almost come out with a win even on that stage was just like a huge confidence boost for me.
Yeah, that's a really good segue to talk a little bit more about this events throughout the entire set. So we're going to recap that, I guess, in a little bit. But first, I guess we want to talk about news and kind of get a little bit out of the way of some of the other topics that were around competitive TFT before we kind of do like a full reflection on the entire set, just so we can kind of recognize all of the great things that happened.
Yeah, that's my bad. I jumped.
No worries. And also like some of the not
I'm too excited to get into it, clearly.
because this is actually the first thing. I wanted to add a couple of things that I mentioned that we didn't actually cover, but we did touch upon the previous episode. One of them was that Sphinx has actually got an official competitive ruling for his griefing in tournament. If you guys don't remember, Sphinx was a player that got his heart steals, raised the stakes, griefed in tournament, and griefed in terms of like someone just like decided to lose streak on stage 2, and they were both trying to go for 5 loss. And he retaliated by pivoting into the executioners that the person was playing. I believe this was Groxy, and then ended up going top 4, but like, you know, very intentionally target grief. And the big mistake was he also typed it in chat. So there's almost no doubt or deniability there. Sphinx owned up to it, and now he is officially banned for 1 cup, which I think is a good thing. I think some people say, look, KT players are soft or like, you know, whatever, like is part of the game, XYZ. But the reality is undermining competitive integrity or things that could potentially harm that, I think is a really big poisonous slippery slope. Like the more you be like, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal. You can't prove it, XYZ. You're trying to be like legalistic about it. You're not honoring the spirit of competition, and also just going to make the competitive field like very hostile and not welcoming to people that want to have a good time. You don't want people to feel like every time they sign up, there's going to be a lot of dirty play and this kind of stuff that ultimately undermines the competitive spirit of the game. So I'm glad this happened. I think Sphinx took it on the chin, and I think we should be welcoming him back. I don't feel like we should just be like, I mean, we can meme because I think you make stupid decisions, you get laughed at. That's just part of how it is. But I don't feel like people are saying like he should get a lifetime ban, Bryce. That was so over the top.
I mean, so over the top. I think this was exactly what needed to happen. I think this punishment is proportionate to the offense. It's a guy who made the wrong decision in the heat of the moment and regrets it and immediately owned up to it, and who has a long history in this community of being a good actor. Like, we all have low moments in our lives, but there need to be consequences because it was, you know, contrary to the competitive integrity of the event. It was problematic. It didn't ultimately swing anything, right? I don't think, but even if it could have, it's not something we should be messing around with. So yeah, no, this is a good call. And a one tournament punishment is actually a really big deal in TFT because he cannot qualify off of qualifier points basically anymore. So he has to get an automatic shot in one of the open cups, which is really hard, top 4ing, or he has to ladder it, which he's never going to do that. Like, he's not a volume player. He can't. He works. So it basically means you're probably not playing in regionals next set is what this punishment means, which is a big deal.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it would be an interesting comeback story. Dishsoap, you've commented on issues like similar to this, where you said that griefing is part of the game. Do you think this falls into that category, or is it something different?
Oh, I mean, like he was obviously just like blatantly target griefing, but like the only way you could prove it is just because he just typed it like an idiot. But
yeah, okay.
Like you could actually argue like he just thought he was playing his best line. Like if he just didn't type it, like if you're just like, I mean, it's obvious to people who play the game that he was like just obviously griefing, but I mean, typing it was like the actual dumb thing. Oh yeah, I don't really have that much thought. I think the punishment was probably deserved.
Okay. Replay in chat, by the way, says he doesn't deserve to get banned, which is already... Dude, the set's over, and this replay guy still coming in and one-guying the entire lobby. I like it.
It's okay. I'm down. Next time we have replay on, we'll do the debate segment again, and we can make that the topic. And I will.
Oh my god!
It'd be so
I mean, correct me if I'm reading into this wrong, but every time I see this guy chat, it's just so unserious. So like I don't know.
You never know. I feel like it's more of a coin toss than always, but definitely a high percentage of the time.
There's one word I could use to describe replay. It definitely is unserious these days. I like that. Okay, so the SEA drama that I'm also bringing up, as you guys probably saw, I screenshot last week because I remember I wanted to bring it up, was that in SEA regionals, what happens is SEA is made up of a bunch of smaller countries, kind of like EMEA, right? EMEA is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And so it has a ton of smaller countries, except EMEA has a pretty good distribution of countries and representation and qualification paths. Each of these countries, like Greece, Hungary, Germany, the Nordics, right, everything like that, they all get like a couple slots. In SEA, 18 slots of the entire field are Vietnamese, and 8 slots are for the rest of the other countries, filled by a couple of other spots in SEA. And so there's an overwhelming majority that VN is represented. And apparently there's been something that's been happening also. This is not the first time this happened, but it's been kind of an ongoing thing where a lot of SEA players have been accusing Vietnamese players for colluding, specifically to gang up on non-Vietnamese players in the lobby and trying to target grief them once they know that they're eliminated. Right? So let's say let's say there's 4 VN players, 2 of them are functionally eliminated, but 2 of them are playing for a spot at Worlds. What ended up happening multiple occasions was a lot of circumstantial and suspicious activity to indicate that the 2 eliminated players were actively going out of their way to hold every Singaporean player, every Thai player, every Filipino player's units, and not even playing like a real board. They're playing like a bunch of mishmash of stuff. And then what ended up happening was somebody, Hansi Man 20, ended up posting something in the game chat, which is Om Tu Ong Kia Kia, which translates to hug the other 2, which is just slang for holding the other 2, aka holding the other 2 players' units, aka griefing. So this person got a competitive warning. Chaos messaged me and said that the officials didn't actually do anything. He only got a warning, him and one other Vietnamese player. And this was a big stink. And despite all this, Chaos did end up qualifying for the World Championship, right? Incredible. Only one Vietnamese player got through, but this is pretty unacceptable and like an extremely bad look for Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much to say about this topic. I realized, like, when I was thinking about what we'd get into on the show earlier, and I wasn't even sure if we were going to do this, but oh man, okay, my thoughts aren't organized enough, but okay, let's start with the standard here. I think that what Dishsoap said earlier is if people who play the game can look at a spot and agree that it's obviously targeted griefing, if we would assemble like a panel of 10 players that represented kind of all of the big regions, and they all got together and they all agree, yeah, that's what's going on, in my eyes, that's enough to punish in TFT, because there's a weird dynamic to TFT with the shared pool, and there's like a little bit of we talked about this on the last episode too, like some TFT social grace and like integrity, like basic rules about kind of how the flow of the game works. And like taking a hard right-hand turn into someone's line or an entire lobby going out of their way to hold certain players' units warps games in a way that makes TFT fundamentally unfair. And it's just not okay. It's not okay. And there's an argument that I see all the time on the internet that pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
It's the most bullshit red herring argument where it goes something like, well, where do you draw the line? Like in TFT, it's advantageous to hold other people's units, and that's part of the game. And it's like, yes, it is. And if it's borderline, if it's actually defensible, we don't punish, right? I agree. We should err on the side of caution here. There's some amount of this that is part of the game and optimizing to win. And I don't want to take away from someone who's trying to actually play the game seriously and trying to win. But you can also clearly cross the line in your behavior, and if 10 elite players all look at the same spot and agree that's what was going on, then it's not okay. And I think in both these situations, I don't even think it's close. If the entire all of the Vietnamese players were actually getting together and colluding in this way, I would punish everyone who I thought participated. If any communication that I saw, it's clearly against the spirit of competitive integrity. It's not fair to the players who are being targeted in this way. And it's no longer about one individual, right? Mm-hmm. When one person can only do a little bit of damage, usually to someone's line. Although hard right turning into someone's like 3-cost reroll line, that's pretty devastating. It's hard to come back from that relative to other stuff.
Yeah.
But in this case, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If 5 people in your lobby, 6 people in your lobby, you're trying to grief you, they can completely fuck up your game if they're actually doing it in a cohesive way. It's not okay.
Not okay. Milala. I mean, were you paying attention to any of this? And if so, what was going through your mind, and where do you stand on it?
I saw a little bit of it on Reddit, but I wasn't like too familiar with it. I think like what kind of I saw was like in NA regionals when like Pigon and Replay kind of played the same blinked out line.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that like from my POV, I didn't think like Pigon was intentionally griefing Replay. Like, I mean, blinked out is just like so broken that like if people just contest the same comp, right? Like that's not like really griefing. So that's kind of where I stand.
Okay. Either way, this is one of the difficulties of combined region finals, which is actually going to be another thing we talk about in a little bit. But let's get through the news and finish. The other big piece of news, I don't feel like the current patch is big news. They buffed the Philios, they buffed gear and reroll, they buffed a bunch of terrible units in set 10. I think most people don't really care. It's a for fun patch. If you guys love all these reroll comps, apparently that's live. That's currently what's the new patch. But the big patch that everyone's talking about is set 11. PB is out for about 2 days now. Dishsoap's been grinding. This dude wakes up at I wake up at like 7 a.m. This guy's streaming. Dishsoap, how's the set 11 grind for you?
I haven't played that many games, man. I did like a 6 and then a 4 hour.
Okay. That's you're right. Okay, Milala, how many games have you played?
Like, I played one game yesterday and I just went eighth and I died on like stage 4 earlier
Okay.
today.
Bryce, how many games have you played? You played 0 games. Okay, so
I haven't even really watched. I mean, like I
Okay.
was like in your stream briefly before this. I was in Soap stream for like 30 minutes at some point. I have
All
no
right.
fucking idea what's going on.
Okay, so the only reason why I bring that out is because on this call, you are one of the experts and the people grinding the most. So talk to me about set 11.
Oh, I mean, I'm having fun. It's really hard for like me to give like a justified review to a set early because I just fucking love this game. Like I'm just addicted to TFT in general. So like I'm always just gonna play this game. I'm really not gonna be able to come out and tell you like a set of shit. Like that's just not what I'm gonna be able to do. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna enjoy like all the like little Borg optimizations. What I will say though, these encounters are not that fun. But whatever. Like they're still augments, so it's fine.
Okay. You know, my take on set 11, I've played a pretty good amount too. I played as much of the playtest as I possibly could between Worlds. You guys probably didn't see it, but after Worlds ended, I literally would just be queuing as many games I could with Asa and Ramblin, who was here, and then also just playing as many games I could to record for YouTube. And I do think that set 11 is going to be a big wine fest. I think a lot of people are going to complain about encounters.
Oh,
I think that there's a lot of encounters that completely warp the entire trajectory of the game. You could be in an amazing spot, and all of a sudden things go completely left field. But that being said, so I will say that I think competitively, if you love yapping, great news. You got a lot of ammo material for the next 4 months. I think there's going to be a lot of things to complain about in terms of like, I can't believe the game ended here, or like this swung XYZ direction. That being said, I think that set 11 is more fun than set 10 by like a big margin in terms of just like, I feel like there's a lot more like I'm speaking almost from the content creator perspective. I just feels like there's a lot more things you can explore and enjoy and some wacky stuff. Like for example, I love that crests and more availability of like, you know, doing all these different trade things because headliners restricted that are back in the game. And now you can experiment a lot more with things that are just like kind of weird and unknown, because the only way you could do a set 10 was if you just got like a random tome. And that just felt like kind of impossible to get. Or you picked Wandering Trainer, and it's like those are not exactly the games that you're actually going for because everyone's so high power level. Set 10 felt very different. It felt it honestly, the reason why I think I like set 11 right now is because it feels like I'm having fun again. Like I'm just like doing a bunch of stupid nonsense. There's one augment I was telling Dishsoap about where it converts all of your completed items on the bench into support items, and it turns support item anvils. So you just stack like the same thing over and over and over. I stacked like 5 gems with like 6 Zephyrs and like 6 Virtues of the Martyr. And it was just like the funniest thing I've done like in a long time. I feel like that was like missing from set 10. I didn't really feel like I got a lot of that casual fun element. So I think that's a good thing, because I think set 10 actually turned away a lot of players because of how hard it was, Bryce. I know that you loved it, but I like
listen,
that.
I buy that for sure. And yeah, a bunch of people talk about something in chat, which is like the only thing I do have a strong opinion about, which is the set is beautiful. The art and the color, the way the color palettes work together, and just the whole vibe and energy of it is so fucking good. And actually, I have a group of friends, like some IRL friends that I've just been teaching to play TFT. They're all really early in their journey. We're talking like one of them is bronze, and then a couple of them are like maybe just getting into plat type of vibes. And one of them messaged me and just said it's lovely. It made her smile a lot. Like she's just having so much fun playing TFT relative to how much fun she had in set 10. As a result, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, that being said, set 11, I guess we don't have to talk too much more about it because I know Bryce and Milala haven't had too much time. So we'll just go ahead and just say, if you haven't tried set 11 PB, go for it. If you're also on PB Mobile, congratulations. That feels like a great experience as well. I want to be able to play that kind of stuff. Looking forward to that. Also, there's going to be some more set 11 PB tournaments. We'll talk about it towards the end of the podcast. Okay, before we go into the recap of the set, I kind of want to do agrees earlier, because I think agrees kind of summarize a lot of other topics that we can kind of go about. That covers news, and then we can kind of reflect on the set, and then we're going to go straight into the rankings and then kind of finish out the podcast that way. So the first agree that we're going to go is something that I've heard a lot throughout the course of the set, mainly from other content creators that don't even necessarily play TFT as their main game. So the agree is, in hindsight, set 10 will go down as the most skill expressive set ever. But we should not repeat this again, meaning we shouldn't try to make a very high, most skill expressive set again, because in the words of a lot of other people, it turned away a huge amount of the players, kind of similar to what I just mentioned. One creator, for example, Atrioc, made a video exactly about this, that TFT put a few notches closer to being more like chess than a slot machine, and that was a mistake. I wonder what you guys think. Let's start off with Dishsoap.
I mean, it's definitely true. Like people that say it's not the highest skill expressive, you're just, I feel like you're just objectively wrong. Yeah, it probably shouldn't be done again. Pretty sure last set was like kind of bad for content. Like at the end of the set, because I work with my editor, like trying to get like good videos out, and like I can't just send them. I can't just send them like the 10th card still video in a row. Like
yeah,
like there's got to be like a little bit of variety. Like most of the stuff that's like really really interesting in the set is just like the boring optimizations, like when do you sell this chosen, like when do you roll, like that stuff is like really really in depth and rich, but it's not that interesting if you're not really into the game. So yeah, I probably just fully agree with this.
Okay, Milala, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with like what Dishsoap said. I think like a decent portion of the like set was knowing how to play around certain packages around your chosen as well, which I guess like most of the other sets you're just playing around like verticals. But like at least like, for me, I feel like just like playing around verticals was kind of boring. But I definitely see that like for like most people, they would prefer to like play the game that way and like chase certain verticals and stuff.
Okay, so Malala's also to agree. Bryce, I know you love set 10's aspect of skill expression, so I wonder where you sit on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I'm going to agree with the second half of this statement, right? Like, if high skill expressive TFT is something that at a design level we're trying to get away from, I'm going to be really sad. I think one thing that was part of what made it more skill expressive that hasn't been talked about yet is that it was relatively well balanced. I think that balance has continued to improve, and that when you're playing on more balanced patches, it's always going to be much higher skill expression in TFT, always. Because it gives you much more room to control your own outcome as opposed to patches that are less balanced, and it's dictated more by like what you get pushed into. So I think that played a role in it. I think headliners are part of it. I really enjoyed it was more nuanced TFT. A ton of the skill expression of the set was playing around the mid game, which I really enjoy. Like so many sets of TFT, the mid game is basically dead for the entire set, right? Like the mid game in set 10 is spectacular. And I think, by the way, underscore, I think if we played set 10 for another 6 months, I think one thing that we would get a lot better at is when exactly to sell chosen and roll, and I think it could have been a lot more fluid even than it got to by the end of the set. But it's hard to say, right? Like, we don't know. We never get to stress test it at that level. But yeah, I mean, I love this set. I hope something like this comes back. I don't want headliner back ever. I'm down for that mechanic to just die. But a set that plays like this, that plays this well, yeah, I want this again. I want this almost every set, honestly.
I know you do, and it's part of your fascination with it. But again, I agree with this concept because I think we took too much, and it wasn't even something that we particularly enjoyed. I think the competitive players at one point just started saying that, like, yes, maybe it's like the most balanced ever, but it's like stale. It's not even fun. So it's like the players that it's for are not even the ones that like truly like relish and enjoy it. Everyone was like ready to get past it. So at that point, towards the end of set 10, everyone's just saying like viewership is like really far down, engagement's really low, like no, like ranks take like there's the queues, and the player base in general is just really down. And I see that. I think the health of TFT ultimately relies on gameplay is king, but also gameplay is fun. And I think that ultimately, I think TFT is such a hard game that you could afford to continue to move it back a couple notches towards slot machine, which set 11 is. And I think there's still a ton of skill to be expressed. I don't think we're anywhere near the skill ceiling of it, which is not another agree. Maybe I should have put it, but it's like another thing. I don't think we're anywhere near the skill ceiling of it. I think people could continue to improve. Milala put on a great set, but I don't think he would tell you that he played like 100% flawless TFT.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Like every tournament, I was like making so many mistakes.
Yeah.
But that's what makes the magic, right? That's when TFT is special. I'll say this: I think, Dan, you're probably right, and I will say that when I realized that you were right, like roughly 6 months ago or a year ago, and I will say that when I had that realization, I got profoundly sad
Yeah, you did.
because
You were even thinking about like whether or not you're like, man, do I even really want to
yeah.
keep doing this if that's what ends up being the case?
And I eventually made my peace with it because I, like Dish Soap, feel at the end of the day that this game is so good that no matter how bad it is, it's still good. But the spectrum of it really does impact my. I enjoy it either way. When it plays like this, it's like personal fulfillment that I get out of it.
Yeah.
It's like challenging myself to do a really hard thing. And to be honest with you, I didn't get into set 7, 8, or 9 because the challenge didn't feel worth it, if that makes sense. It was hard. TFT's always hard, but it wasn't like testing for the stuff that I really enjoyed about the game, this type of nuanced, rich play. And so it's not a mistake that I was in better form for this entire set than I was for any of the past sets. From an analyst perspective and from a gameplay perspective, I loved it, so I watched it all the time, and I played it whenever I could, and I enjoyed every second of it. So anytime I had free time, I always just opted in, and I didn't do that in set 7, 8, and 9. It just wasn't worth it to me. So if we actually just steer away from this entirely, it'll be hard for me. Like this was like refilled my TFT soul, basically. I don't know how else to describe it. It was so great. I love set 10.
They're not probably going to go anywhere near. Okay, part of it was that Dragons was like things like Dragons were just like a fundamental, in my opinion, design failure. It wasn't about a fun or a competitive thing. It was just a bad mechanic. So, but I understand exactly what you're saying. I do feel the need to make some clarification like that. I think they just missed on certain things. Period.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, chat 55-45 split in slight agree. So it looks like most people did say yes, but a huge amount of people also said no. So Bryce, looks like obviously we're talking to a competitive audience, so I think they'd naturally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's a little bit more spicy, I think. And North America is now solo tier 1. Every other region is now tier 2 and below. I want to go to Milala, the reigning world champion.
Honestly, I don't think we're solo tier 1. I think CN's pretty good. Yeah, but in like my initial interview with Panda, I said we were 1 and CN was 2. And then like as soon as I saw the spreadsheet and this Bintum guy is like NA sucks, I was perma hate watching this guy even during my own games.
Dude, you'll be happy to know that Kurum played that role on the World's broadcast.
Oh man,
he was on, and it was so funny watching Kurum, just being with Kurum while he watched Bintum. Go back and watch the clips, you guys. It'll be good for the soul. Like any game we're on Bintum, just wait for it. It gets so good.
I need to add some context here, just because people might not. So some people legitimately still haven't watched Worlds yet. Bintum is a 3-time Worlds finalist from Korea, and he comes in as I think the only Korean player to do that, and therefore starts saying like, "Hey, I'm the #1 Korean player." And then, Panda interviews all the players possibly can. Panda, who handles our EMEA version of Don't Talk If You Don't Know. And Bintum told him that like NA is like not that good, they're overrated, and that's China and EMEA as the only tier 1 regions. And then like NA is like far behind. And then as soon as I started letting other people know, some NA players took personal offense to that. And so it became a huge storyline. A lot of people were hate watching Bintum, and he was doing pretty well until he ran it completely down on the last part of the second day. So rest in peace, Bintum. But hey, 3 Worlds is great, and he's a good player. But my God, how could you be that wrong? How could you be that wrong?
I mean, if you're going to talk some shit, then back it up. And if you can't, be prepared to get flamed back. And if you show up and compete at next Worlds and do well again, I'm all for that. Like, that'll be a great story. But in the meantime, we're going to talk some shit, buddy, and you deserve it.
I will say one thing. It takes a big man to be able to, or big person, to be able to talk that shit before the first game is played, because he has a lot to lose. He fed us a lot of storylines going into it. It's so much easier if you already won, right? Like Milala doesn't trash talk, but he could just immediately do it. Like Replay is like another person who talks big before he delivers, and for better or for worse, he either falls on his face or he soars in the sky, right? And I think that kind of personality has added a lot this set. I really love that. So, Dishsoap, what do you think about this statement? Is NA solo tier 1?
I think it's definitely just duo tier 1 with CN. I think you could argue that like for the amount of players NA has compared to CN, like maybe you bump us up, but I don't really think that's like really a good way to rate regions. I think it's a duo. But like about like Bintum, I kind of like respect him a lot for saying it.
Yeah,
I looked at like the actual like spreadsheet, like the thing that you looked at, and I think the reason why he thought we sucked was because he wrote something about like how we were Mikhail / Defen region. I think that was like the thing.
Okay.
he took offense to the most.
Interesting. So he had the wrong
And
read on
honestly,
one.
I kind of agree. Only in the sense that like I'm pretty sure like if you type a copy, you shouldn't just like, get it for free.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't give it. I'm not going out of my way, but like if I'm in a clearly better spot, I'm just gonna play it. I'm not climbing high enough to care, so I don't give a fuck.
I just want to say this while it's still in chat for people to see right now, but it's a 50-50 split, and one single vote, 53 votes to 52, end up going to disagree. So it's contentious. I mean, I think a lot of people are NA homers right now voting, but also at the same time, there's an actual case for it, Bryce, I think.
Nah, it's just salty EU voting disagree.
There is for sure, and remain salty EU. Eventually, one day you're gonna have a good tournament, and the best part about it is you're gonna start talking shit, and we're gonna be honestly happy for you. Like I want to see someone from EMEA succeed at Worlds. At this point. Like,
they did, Bryce. Set 9.
I know,
but Jungler got second, Weijin got third, and EMEA just like for the entirety of the rest of set 10 until we got to Worlds, they were just like, oh man. You guys got cooked at Worlds. Like Wet Jungler and Weijin had like the same amount of points, and like title gapped everyone by what are you talking about?
I love that. Like I'm like we're gonna be happy for you, and all of chat's like, nah, we're not gonna be happy for those fuckers. My bad, chat. My bad.
I like that. No, look. Okay, now that being said, I do think EMEA is underrated. Not that they're part of Disagree, but I do think NA is the best region. Top of tier 1, and I actually agree. I slightly disagree as well with everyone else that NA is solo tier 1. But I think that at a set from now, if we kind of repeat similar performances, mainly if we're able to kind of keep showing up like this, I think that's actually an easy agree. I think we're well on our way to repeat this, and then all of a sudden it's going to be who can take North America down, and we're going to be the villains all of a sudden. No matter how much you guys want to be like, oh, Milala's a likable champion. Dishsoap's a likable champion. Everyone has their likability to it. Everyone's going to want to take you down, and they're going to hate watch you guys. So
what I will say about this topic, so I don't think we're solo tier 1. If I were doing this tiering like how we do with our player power rankings, where we have our like tier 1 and we do like 1A, 1B, 1C sometimes depending on relative form, I think China is 1B. I think they're both tier 1. I don't think we gap China hard enough to justify being a full tier above them. But we've beat them in AVP for was it 4 or 5 Worlds in a row now? They're right there. The eye test, when I watch the good Chinese players at the end, they always look good at TFT. And we won, but they went second, third, fourth. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how we could possibly argue solo, but I think we have an edge.
Small. Okay. I mean, counterpoint, if we had 6 seeds, there was a pretty good chance we could have also gotten there too. Just put it out there. I mean,
6 seeds probably lowers their average placement, honestly.
Yeah, but it increases their chances. They go they 3 people make final lobby and 2, 3, 4. But you're right.
Exactly.
You're right.
Or raises their average placement.
Yeah.
It always depends on who's qualified. If your top 4 included your 2 weakest players, then adding 2 people is probably good. But if you had the right 4, enough. You don't really need to add 2 more, right?
Yeah, that is true. All right. Agree number 3. This one was a very popular opinion on Reddit. And I kind of amalgamated a bunch of different opinions into one, or claims into one, is that TFT Worlds is not hype, right? It's a poor job in promoting it, and the casting needs to improve. I'm going to let Bryce go first for this one.
Oh, man. This is on the spot, Dan. I did not think you were going to go here.
I mean, it's just random topics that's been coming up for the past few weeks. Okay, the reason why I wanted to do it is because Bryce is specifically also having a new revelation on TFT casting. So I figured it'd be an easy segue for you to talk about.
Okay. I'm just going to rip this one. And I'm going to lead by saying that if I offend anybody, I am sorry. And I don't mean anything that I'm about to say as a personal attack against any individual. But I do have
no flame.
No flame.
Yeah,
just remember saying no flame.
No flame. I mean, fuck, man. I always try to keep it real on the podcast, especially, but just in general, I don't like to sugarcoat things. I do have strong opinions about this, and I'm just gonna let it go. Fuck. Okay. I think TFT is a game played with your mind. I think that's what makes it special, and I think that when League of Legends is played at the highest level, or when Counter-Strike is played at the highest level, there is an element of it that is kind of flashy on its face that makes it exciting. And I think that what it takes to cast those esports is very different as a result. I think that what they are responsible for is strategic, like their strategic mind, yes, but their ability to bring special moments to life. And that's a totally different skill set to optimize for. And honestly, Dan could talk about this better than I can because Dan's forgotten more about casting than I'll ever know. But I think that TFT is not like that. I think it's much closer to like poker or chess. And I think that if you cannot think about the game of TFT the way that the people on screen are, the way the pros are, then you shouldn't be on broadcast during games live talking about it, in my opinion. I don't think that there's any amount of like outside like research that can really bring you up to speed on what is happening in a game of truly elite TFT. So like you should be able to hit Challenger on command. Like that should be a thing that you can just do. And sometimes you're don't have the time to do it maybe, or you're like out of the meta and you need to learn the meta in order to be able to do it. But like you need to be able to play the game at that level at the bare minimum. And even then you're barely scratching the surface of what these guys are really doing to gain edge. And what makes competitive TFT so special is when you put the best of the best in this game together, the ways in which these guys find edge is on these razor margins doing really cool and interesting stuff. And the job of broadcasting TFT is to bring that to life for the viewer, because most people watching don't think about the game in that way. And I think that, yes, make it hype. Yes, make it exciting. Yes, tell the stories of the players, do all these things, but you have to bring the game to life. You have to be able to think about the game the way the players are. And so for me, I think that's a huge part of why TFT Worlds does not feel as hype as it could. It's not that they do a bad job. They do a great job. The production is really good. I love my colleagues. I respect my colleagues. I'm not trying to say anything bad about anyone in particular. I just think that at the World Championship of the game and just in general on TFT broadcasts, we have to be able to tell the story of what is actually separating these players more in order to make this thing really, really special and feel special. Yep. And I think that's what we always strive to do. And so for me, unless we can do that each and every single game, each and every of the tournament, I don't know how you build those stories and really tell the story. So I don't know. I'll shut up now. I have a lot of thoughts. Like I said, I did not think we were going here. This was like way off the cuff, and I hope no one took this the wrong way. If anyone felt bad about this, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you about it. I'm not like trying to say anything about anybody.
And he would. He has, actually. Bryce had many conversations about like when some people are like, hey, I want to improve as a caster. And Bryce is just like, you got to get better at the game. He's actually had those conversations multiple times in the past over the years. So I will back you up on that. I also think that I'm just to kind of follow through, because you kind of did bring me up on it. I think that the more, just speaking from my personal experience, the more I dive into competitive TFT, the more I think that I'm barely passable at the level that I'm at, only because I miss so much, right? It's kind of one of those things where the more you learn expertise on it, you kind of realize how little you know about it. And it feels like that happens to me on a monthly basis with TFT, where it's like every month I feel like, okay, I'm getting better. And then I'm just like, nope. I just realized actually how much more I suck, which is what makes the game awesome and also partially worth pursuing. I will say another thing is that I think that ultimately what I think lacks on the world's broadcast, and I'm just willing to say it out loud, is I think that I don't feel genuine enthusiasm for TFT. I feel enthusiasm for the prize money and like the regional pride and like what the player is playing for. I don't sense like the actual passion for the game, if that makes sense. And I think that's a sad thing, because I think they are. I just don't think it's communicated well. And I think that's ultimately something that people are like, wow, your coach team is great. Like, I just prefer it. I'm not. What I want to put on the record is I don't want it to make it feel like we should be number one and like don't watch the main broadcast watchers. Like, I think that's like terrible. I think both should coexist and make each other's products better, because ultimately we can't watch every lobby, we can't cover everything. We want more holistic coverage. And the one thing I will say, if there's any people that's working on that broadcast, is I need to feel like you guys like the game more. That's all I really want to say. Because that is a domino effect of everything else. If you can communicate that, then everything else makes sense. Everything else makes sense. It all comes together. I don't know how else to communicate it. It's very abstract, I know, but that's my bit on it. As for Riot promoting it, yes, they could do a better job promoting it. I feel like they rely too much on like Twitter, and like, dude, people are on Twitter, man. Like, like who's actually here seriously trying to get all their news from Twitter? Like maybe a small group of hyper over engaged people that are terminally online. I think they could do a lot better job for promoting it. So that's an agree for me. Okay, the two yappers are done. Let's go with Dishsoap. What do you think?
I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, it's not the product really isn't for me, but I actually cannot watch any main broadcast of anything. It's just not something that I can really engage with. I mean, I feel like you guys put a better perspective on it. What I will say for like World specifically is that I feel like this opinion will just be like more and more pronounced with like 3 Worlds a year. I feel like that's actually just kind of a lot, and I don't know if like everyone can actually be that exciting. I don't know like what they could do, but like
that is true. That is true.
And also like it's still being online. Like maybe if it was like 1 Giga Worlds a year and it was like on LAN, like maybe that would be the hype.
1 Giga Worlds. I will say, World's not on LAN. I mean, Milala, you can talk about it too, right? The difference between you were there. The difference between winning at Vegas and Worlds. What's that like?
Yeah, I definitely feel like having like an audience is for sure more hype. But I guess like the thing for me, like my take on this kind of topic is, it's kind of weird because I feel like competitive TFT players watch like competitive TFT streams, I guess, is the way I kind of feel about it. It's like, even like when I stream, I feel like my stream is mostly just like the challenger players that like play in cups and stuff, right? And it's like I don't get like too many of like the like I don't know how else to describe them, but like the casuals, which I feel like the mainstream should cater to. So for me, I just feel like it's kind of hard to deliver a product that does like cater to like everybody.
You can't actually. I don't believe that's possible, which is again another reason why I think multiple type of broadcast should exist. Multiple type of co-streams that exist. Mortdog did a co-stream where all he had was himself and rioters, and they were just kind of appreciating what was going on. And I think that's great, and he had an audience for that. And I think more people should be rising up, not like fewer is the better way to describe it.
One thing that I think really orients me in this perspective is in most esports, you basically want to play to your biggest number, right? You play to your biggest portion of your audience. That's what the product should be always, because make it something that the highest percentage of people are really going to enjoy. And I think for most esports, that means you don't want your broadcast to go like too deep. You're going to lose a huge part of your audience. But I think in TFT, since that's the whole game, a huge percentage of the audience in this game, disproportionately so, are the people who, even if they can't recognize it on their own, they want to be able to. That's the quest that they're on, no matter where they're at in that journey. It doesn't matter if they're in like diamond or platinum or gold or masters or GM, or they're like challenger every set trying to break in the top 10, like whatever their goal is, right? Like you're just trying to like watch to better understand the nuance of the game and where you're making your mistakes. And so I think having the core broadcast I think it should be tailored to where the majority of the audience is. I think it's that group of people. I really do. And I think if you make it better and better, I think you're going to attract more and more of them, because like I've watched so many of my friends who played strategy games for a really long time fall in love with TFT, and a lot of it really does kind of resonate in this core. It's part of what makes the journey of TFT feel so good.
Yeah, look, we're not trying to be elitist. I think we're trying to communicate our perspectives. I think some people are in chat like, you're just being way too elitist about it. I'm saying the main broadcast should exist, and that they're doing what they're doing. They're good at what they're good at, but they could have a lot more areas to improve. So I agree with this sentiment, right? This is not even my opinion that I put out there. This was multiple threads of hundreds of people commenting this all throughout the entire weekend. I just felt like it needed to be talked about because like no one else really is. The one thing I will also say is that we can improve, right? Like my product, I think, has so much room to improve. And I even talked about myself. I feel like like I said, the more I do this, the more I feel like I kind of suck at this. So I want to continue to improve as well. I will also add another comment. Someone thoughtfully said, Bryce, what you're asking for in some ways is for people to dedicate solo to TFT when For a lot of them, they can't. These are esports casters that do multiple games and they need to survive. It's the esports winter. Can they feasibly do that without putting their livelihood in? And I think that's completely fair.
Yeah, super
but
fair.
I also think like both sides, it could be one of those things where both people can be right about this. So, okay, the last agree, and then I promise we'll get to the actual rankings here. That's the whole point of what we're doing, is North America combining with LATAM and Brazil into the Americas is a mistake. People are saying that this is actually not good for either side. Like North America might get fewer spots. Brazil and LATAM, what happens if 8 NA players get through? What happens to them, right? So, like, a lot of people are really worried about this intercontinental combination to do Americas, EMEA, APAC, and China. Those are going to be the 4 major regions of TFT. It's a very common thing. Let's put it out there. A lot of games and ecosystems do this kind of 4-region division. But I just want to get people's thoughts. Let's start with Milala.
I don't even know, like, so I think I want to agree with this, like, not just because, like, I think, like NA is going to clear and, like, we're going to take all the slots or anything, but I feel like if we do something like this, doesn't it, I feel like it would just take away some more hype from Worlds, right? I guess, because there's less, like, region, like, rivalry, I guess, going into Worlds.
Okay, so you're saying, like, there's less mystique about international play if you're doing it too often.
Yeah, it's, like, in between, it's, like, I feel like going to Worlds, like, you're excited to meet, like, your international friends from, like, LATAM and BR and stuff, and, like, even, like, people in Asia are excited to face off against their friends, like Chinese players are excited to face off against Taiwo or whatever, and, like, stuff like that. Okay. So, yeah, I think that takes away a lot of that hype.
100%. Dishsoap, what do you think?
Okay, it's really, really hard to say when we don't know any of the details, but, like, when I go through, like, the scenarios in my head of how this works, like, a lot of them concern me. Like, how do the cups work? Is it just gonna be like so many people from like every region? How is ladder gonna work? Like, is regionals just gonna be huge? Like, is the variance gonna be bigger or the tournament's gonna be bigger? Like, there's just like so many questions that come up with this. But you really can't give that much opinion on what's the format, but I'm like a little concerned.
Okay. And you're mainly concerned about what?
Just variance, like adding more people.
Okay.
Like if you're forcing, I don't know. I think other regions do like bigger cups than we do, and bigger cups, lower sample size. I mean, I'm just like talking about like a hypothetical because like it could just be like fine, but
basically your answer to this question swings on the format. Like you need to see the full format before you can actually agree or disagree.
Like I know a lot of people in EMEA like complain about their like qualification format, and I don't really have that many problems with the qualification format right now. So I don't know if we want to be copying EMEA because they hate it.
Interesting. Okay, I'm actually interested in hearing more about that, but I want to go to Bryce first.
I agree with Dishsoap. I think I need to see the format to make a call on this. I think there's one important kind of shift I think that we should have in mentality. Like Dishsoap talked earlier about I don't know if it's possible to make like 3 worlds in the same year hype. I think that's because the whole mentality around it's off. When you talk about worlds, you're talking about it like in League of Legends where you play till the end of the year and there's one world championship. And it's a month-long tournament. It's a totally different thing, right? But in TFT, we could just be structured like golf or tennis or Counter-Strike or Dota and have majors. And the world of each set is just one of the majors, and there are 3 majors every year.
Yep.
And when you think about it, TFTs is a game where the meta changes radically all the time. Most of the year changing radically within metas, and then every once in a while they just blow it up and start from scratch. It's the same core game, but they're fucking with you in a bunch of ways. Try again. How are you doing? And so if you think about it that way, I think it could be interesting. And then like just like in CSGO majors, sometimes there's a bunch of Brazilian teams in the major, and then sometimes there's none, right? And that's true of every region around the world, right? Like North American Counter-Strike is up in arms right now because of a bullshit format that cost Team Liquid a fair shot at making it, basically. Like it wasn't like it wasn't, it's not that everyone said they like definitely deserve to be there, just like they got hosed pretty badly in terms of what caused them to get eliminated, and they should have had more of a shot. So like I think you have to make the formats good, but if you do that, I think that it actually can be compelling to tell the like broader picture storylines and then really compete for like who's the best region. As long as you make the competitive format rigorous enough to feel like you're qualifying the best players, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I personally, that actually echoes very similar to what I think, is that this can be great. This can be actually exactly what we want, because North America intermixing with Latin and Brazil will force that region to get better, in my opinion. I think that ultimately elevates the level of play. And I think that while Milala is right, it will like kind of exhaust a little bit more of like Latin versus NA versus BR, but I do think that having more cross-regional play is ultimately something that's lacking in TFT. It's something that I go out of my way to try to see, like, can we organize NA versus CN or an EMEA show match of some kind? I think it's a little bit more interesting having it be more prominent. I will also say that I do think the idea of 3 world championships sounds exhausting in a year. Tennis is kind of similar, right? Like, it's like one major, it's on hard court, it's on clay, it's on grass, and it's like different. And in that same way, it's kind of like different sets of TFT. I would love to see some more thoughtfulness be put into like what it means to win a TFT Worlds, or in this case, a major. So yeah, I generally am disagree only because I'm optimistic that they wouldn't do something this drastic in the middle of the year unless they had an actual good plan. But I will criticize and say like this is bad if it is bad. I just have to see the format. So Chad generally agrees 70-30, but I mean, we'll just have to see. I think everyone's just immediately worried because they bring up a lot of valid concerns. All right. So with that, let's steamroll full on ahead to the last portion of the show, which is to kind of reflect on set 10, which we're going to do for just a few minutes, right? We're going to basically talk about like all the good moments of it, and then we're going to start doing the actual rankings. The first and foremost, let's talk about how amazing was TFT Las Vegas, man. This is, if you missed out on TFT Vegas, I just can't tell you enough. Like, this is probably going to be one of those moments that will be referenced until the end of esports. People are going to be like, well, do you remember that one time when everyone was going to that first TFT LAN? It was like a special moment. Everyone has, every truly thriving esports scene has like a flagship moment like that. And this event was exactly that. The hype, the production, the storylines, Milala stealing at the very end. It just had it all, man. It was so special. I was tweeting after the first day, Bryce. I knew how special this event was.
It's so weird, the feeling of knowing before an event's going to happen that's probably going to be like one of the highlights of your year and of your probably longer than that like you'll look back on it for a long time. And we kind of knew going in, and then it was while we were in it, and then you reflect back on it, and it was. So it's just, yeah, it was super cool. Milala being the guy to win that's fucking cool. Like, it's you now actually have to, we're going to have to ask you on this show, like, what is fucking cooler? If we win one, you have to have one taken away. Do you want to be the Vegas champ, or you want to be the world champ?
Oh, right now on the spot?
Yeah, fuck it.
For me, I feel like Vegas was a dream come true, and Worlds was like a job done.
Okay. So wait, which one do you keep?
I'd rather keep the Vegas champ, I think.
Oh, I like it. Also because Vegas was like, I mean, you can only be like the first LAN champion, right? Like people remember the first one. I like that answer.
A funny little story about that. Setsuko and I were like sitting in like the venue before the game started, and like he literally asked me which one, like, would I rather win Vegas or Worlds, and we both agreed that we'd rather win Vegas.
Wow,
interesting.
Why for you? Why for you?
Oh, I mean, we were just like, I don't know. The event was just like insane. You were like waiting in front of a crowd.
Yeah,
that's just the main thing.
Okay, we want land. Land's really good. More of that. I dream of a world where we can have multiple LANs a year, not just once a year. But hey, once a year, we'll take that for now. Most people are getting their LANs taken away. I mean, a lot of competition is just now being serialized to be online tournaments only, and that's just not the secret sauce of what makes gaming in esports even explode in the first place. It was really the community coming together, and you can just see it, right? Just like you can see the moments where like the lab is going crazy for Humbug when he stole Souls' spot in the final lobby. This is Kevin Parker doing the Yone to Broccoli, which is now like his claim to fame, and both these players getting a moment in history. It was just good stuff. Okay, KDA Cup, Milala. Did you really feel like you were going to actually win this at one as well, kind of rolling your momentum over?
No, I definitely didn't think I was going to win. I thought I was in pretty good form because we played a couple scrims, and like I felt like I was like cooking like every game, and I thought I was like in a really good spot. But I feel like it's really hard to like feel like you're going to win a tournament.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hockeygom got second in some interesting different world. If Kane Drew actually kind of went for something like the Blitzcrank 3 off the triple duplicators. Maybe Polygon wins this event, and once more, maybe changes a little bit of the course of the outcomes. But that was the case.
Pocky was really good in this event. This was the event where everyone thought AD Flex was bad, and Pocky realized that like it was actually high key broken.
Yep.
He was playing around like Zed every game.
Right.
Like he had big macro advantage on the field for this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And Ripple, this was the Ripple VOD review tournament as well. We did the VOD review with him on like the first day, and he just looked he was like top point under that day, right? And he just looked so fucking good.
Yes, I remember. You were gushing over Ripple's play.
Yeah, that was
really
one of my
good.
favorite VOD reviews that I can remember in a long time. Because
right.
I didn't get to really watch him when he was good. Set 8 was the last time he was good, right? And I just didn't really watch that set. Same thing, I didn't really get to watch kind of the ascent of replay either. So it was really fun watching Ripple like actually seriously invested in the game.
I like that you brought replay. The second tournament this set, or the third tournament this set after the Vegas and KD Cup was Heartsteel Cup. Replay wins this. Replay puts himself on the podcast, talks about how he deserves to be in that tier 1, that core 4 with Weijin, Dishsoap, and Setsuka. Which, Dishsoap, you're watching alongside this, right? Were you always in your mind being like, man, replay should be part of these conversations as well?
Yeah, man, I think he was really good. I think he probably, he definitely deserved it. I don't know what you want me to say.
No,
What is the moment when you would have put him tier 1?
When he, probably set 9 mid set, I think.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's when he proved that the world champ was not a fluke. Because he day 1 the first something because he was moving or something.
Yeah.
And then he put 2 solid performances back to back in set 9, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did.
So
He did.
I think I'd put him there then.
And then people may have forgotten this, but replay was also in the regional final lobby in set 9 as well. It was him, Soju, Milk, who all didn't make it, and me, Bryce were like, "Wow, we get all these guys." And then we got Connor in Toronto, and a bunch of underdogs. We're like, "Huh, okay. Well, that wasn't exactly what we expected." But he made it again. So 2 set 9 regional final lobby, set 10 regionals final lobby, and yeah, he didn't make it to Worlds, but dude, this guy was on the doorstep. Another 2 sets after he won Worlds. I mean, he is legit, and he said he's not coming back to compete in set 11. I call half bullshit, but if he doesn't, if that ends up being true, we'll miss you, man. Come back anytime. Shout out to Billy Can Carry, by the way, sneaks his way into regionals where Dishsoap was able to take that win. Dishsoap, when you knew that you won, people said that you got emotional. What was going through your head when you kind of realized that you had won?
Oh, I mean, I feel how could you just not be emotional? You've been working on this for a year and a half basically, and people have been doubting you, believing you the whole way. Yeah, I don't know how you couldn't be emotional. I was just really happy at the end of the day.
You had said that. Oh, I was gonna say you had said at one point you felt like you were developing imposter syndrome. Wait, am I actually overhyped? Am I actually a ladder guy? Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from what I can tell, it's a pretty common thing. But definitely big imposter syndrome for a while.
Oh, okay.
So now that you're over the hump and you've won, looking back, what is your self-evaluation? How much of... Because for a long time, the narrative was that you were, I think, you were on the bad side of variance, I think, relative to competitors. If you watched your tournament games relative to other folks, and I did, I think you were on the bad side of some variance. But some amount of it was definitely within your control as well. That's part of TFT. When you think about your play this set in regionals relative to your play in the last 3 regionals, do you think you found another gear? Which sets do you feel like you played roughly as well as you did this regionals, if any?
I think set A, probably.
Okay.
But the thing I did this set, though, is I spent most of my prep, playing, I spent most of my prep, setting stage 2, stage 3. That might just be, a this set kind of thing. But that's where I felt like I got a lot of my advantage from. A lot of times you would just be studying, what line to take, what, in-game boards you're making, how to cap, but I'd say, 80% of my prep was stage 2, stage 3. Constantly VOD reviewing every scrim afterwards, when you're waiting for people. Stuff like that.
Milala, do you agree with that?
The stage 2 and stage 3 thing.
Yeah, did you focus your VOD reviews more there this set than other sets?
I think at the like towards the end of the set probably, like especially like the thing is with like the regionals patch and worlds patch was the 4-2 roll down and like 4-1 roll down was really important, and like knowing how you can be in like the best spot to get there. I think what's actually like super broken that I think like replay started was everyone started using like the replay tool, the outplayed stuff. I think everyone caught on to that. I think that's like
Dude,
been
Dan's doing that for like 100 years.
I feel like that's been what's like super broken. I think I saw.
I'm glad
like,
you said
Setsuko's-
that.
Dan, you don't even get credit for bringing the review
Yeah, it's
software.
replay
TFT,
getting
man.
credit for it.
Well, that's
I
what I
mean-
saw.
No, it's fine. To be fair, he's one of the players that does it the most publicly, I think. So, but I'm glad that it's a tool being used. Look, it's just using a tool, like whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah,
they're
just
able to do it
using
to improve.
It's great.
Let's talk a little bit about Worlds briefly, right? Dishsoap, what do you think? You said that the 8th kind of tailspinned a little bit out, but overall, can you just talk a little bit holistically about your World Championship run?
I don't know. I think I played solid the first day, and I don't really know like what else to say besides that. Like first day I played fine, and then second day I had like a really really like on the wire like win out or go 7th game. I ended up going 7th, probably just like made a couple of optimizations. Then I think I like got a 4th or something, and then I went 5th with like the Yasuo 3. And then the next game was the 8th, and
Wait, when did you have that Yasuo 3, by the way? It was like 2-2 or something.
Yeah.
it's
He rolled
no,
that-
but
he
like
rolled
like
that
the thing is like I literally said it like you can go back and watch my VOD. I said like this shit is like kind of bad in Scuttle Puddle. Like I didn't even want to play it, but I feel like if you have to roll twice for a Yasuo 3 and you're still making like 10 on 2-2, like I didn't think it'd be that bad. I thought I was just gonna get like a 3rd. Getting a 5th is pretty bad though.
And that's one of those niche scenarios that you're like, you go for it, but even though you played a bunch of TFT for the whole set, were you ever in that spot the whole set?
I mean, I played Yasuo before. Just
Sure, you played Yasuo before, but never considering 2-2 Yasuo and Scuttle.
Oh,
right?
actually,
Oh,
he
yeah,
had,
yes.
Bryce,
I mean,
and I
still-
specifically said he did, and I said he went 6th in that game.
And he played it?
Oh,
He played it both times?
oh wait, I don't remember. I just know that Scuttle Puddle is not very like Yasuo Scuttle Puddle is not very good.
What I'm trying to figure out is if you were relying on like your intuition in that moment, or if you feel like you had like hard data. That did you ever consider like not playing it, or you were just like, I
Oh.
it has to be from the spot?
I feel like you'd be crazy to not play. Like it's just free. The thing is, like, if you're playing on Yasuo, you're just like I don't know. Like maybe I was supposed to like find some like Giga Heart Still Pivot with 100 HP on like stage 4. That just seemed like way too many steps to go through.
That sounds kind of good though. Now when you say it out loud,
Yeah, no, but you have to literally find everything.
you do.
And like I wasn't actually that rich, so and it was also like 5-way contested. Like yeah, I don't know. I thought I could just get a 3rd with HP.
Sure.
I mean, to be fair, I thought it was a great play to at least go for that. It was cool looking. I think everyone was really hyped about it. Either way, I think you still were in there. We had the standings, for example, pulled up of when you were really competitive and NA competitive in general. The last thing I'll ask you about Worlds Dish, so before we go to Milala, was do you think that global competition is that close? Every time people go to Worlds, they always say, all the regions are actually, there's like a tier 1, but like everyone else is kind of close. Do you actually feel like competition was a lot closer, or do you still feel like there's some big gaps?
I mean, the feeling still was that regionals was harder. I know, like, it doesn't really, like, I feel like I can't really say it with authority because, like, the end placement isn't there. Like, it doesn't match. But just, like, in the feeling in games, I do think the regionals was harder.
Okay. Milala, you've played in multiple global competitions now. You played in Worlds, you played at MSI, you played at Vegas. What is your general, like, do you agree with Dishsoap there? What's your feel on global play right now?
I think the play at MSI was probably the highest, just because they literally invited like every top player from every other region, and it was me and Riri play, and I thought we were gonna fraud it up, but then for Worlds, I think there's definitely like big gaps, but like I don't think it's like too big of a deal because like each lobby will have like 1 or 2 guys that are like slightly below, so it's not too much it's not like too much lobby dependence.
Okay. Is that not the same for NA regionals though? There's like maybe like 1 or 2 weaker players. So in that sense, isn't that kind of the same as North America?
Kind of. The thing with like this regionals, I feel like, was that this regionals was kind of a special case. Yeah, but like on day 2, I think like some of the lobbies had like Origins, Setsuko, and Dishsoap, and like all 6 of them or something, and it's like pretty crazy. Yeah.
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 Okay.
I mean,
okay.
So here's what I think is the theoretical invitational version of Worlds where you bring the tier 1 players from all the different regions is for sure a stronger tournament. Like it's for sure more prestigious, it's more rigorous, it's more interesting too because you're seeing regional styles clash. So like I'm very interested in the invitational like World Championship where you actually figure out a way to do that accurately. And the reality is that different regions are going to have different numbers of players. Like, obviously, you have to invite title. If you don't invite title, you're trolling. I'm not sure there's anyone else in Japan that has an argument for that. But I'm open-minded about it if there are players at that level, right? But that's what you really want is you pull that together. But instead, we do random sorting because it's TFT, and some places have like a one person or a couple people who are really good, but then a lot of people who are significantly worse than them. And so the minor regions, not minor regions, but like certain regions, right? I guess the small regions, I don't know what the right way to phrase this. I'm not trying to like be derogatory or anything, but like the regions that are sending fewer players are sometimes sending their weaker players who are making bigger mistakes on these stages than would happen. Like Weird is a good example. Weird was not the cream of the crop in NA. Anyone who thinks so was not watching all the TFT, but he was a pretty solid player, and even on low prep, he performed pretty well at Worlds. That's how deep NA is right now. Most regions are not that deep, so it's like playing in regionals is a pretty hard tournament start to finish, even if you have some weaker NA players in it sometimes.
Yeah, well said, well said. I do want to give a shout out to some people who had really good performances and didn't make it. 62nd also had a pretty good run, barely missed out. And I feel like he's a player that also kind of has a similar story to Dishsoap. I feel like he for a long time was like, oh, he's like a ladder god and like he does well, but in tournaments, he never made it to the World Championship, and he finally did it and put on a really good performance. So I want to give the shout out to him. I want to give a shout out to Cheche as well from LATAM. I think he also ended up having a good second day. And also Relic from LATAM, he made it to the final lobby. Mostly, we talked about it multiple times on the co-stream, but once more, he's the first player to ever make it to TFT Worlds and League of Legends Worlds as a pro player. Sick. That's really, really cool. And he only retired like less than a year ago, and he's been competing in TFT. And while he's not necessarily LATAM's strongest player, I think you could name a few people, namely like Michael and a couple of others, but I really look forward to see their growth. And I want them to compete against North America because I think it'd be really sick to see a little bit more of that America's flair come. I've watched it in Hearthstone. We're watching it in VCT. I would love that to come to TFT. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was Milala as the reigning world champion. You have a spot guaranteed in set 11 Worlds, but you have to make regionals. You have to make regionals. So please, Mr. President, please take the stage and guarantee us, promise us you'll make it back to Worlds next set.
Yeah, I think like push comes to shove, like if I'm like in a bad spot and I have to like grind ladder for the regional spot, I'm gonna like take a few extra days off work to make sure that I make it.
Nice.
Oh, you definitely should do ladder. It's actually the easiest one. like anyone that says it's not, like they're just not trying hard enough on ladder.
Okay, yeah. All right. No trolling. Don't run it down. You do have a small reputation for running it down on ladder randomly when you're on call with the boys. No running it down.
One set for one set. For yourself, though, by the way, on this one, because like part of what makes it not hard is that you're one of the only people who really actually focuses on it. So having a lot of focus on it is a little bit scarier.
I don't know why people don't. It's a free regional. It's like
more people are. Like Pesavit was a big part of his qualification because he was definitely not showing up in tournaments. I'll tell you that. But yeah, we'll see. I think more people are catching on to that, and who knows, with Milk coming back, for example, that might also be a thing. I look forward to it. Set 11 is going to be great. And on that note, we are now at the finale of the show where we do the actual final rankings of the set. This is not power rankings. Usually when we do power rankings, it's a prediction, right? It's almost like the same thing as fantasy drafts or doing a caster analysis segment of like, who do you think is going to do well? This is pure voted on who were the definitive best players in the set based on top players. Everyone here on the show voted. We had Setsuko contribute, right? We also have like Replay and all of them are contributing as well. It's a bunch of well-respected people. If you follow other games like the Super Smash Bros. Community, it's like their equivalent of the top 100 of their rankings at the end of the season. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with number 15. And at number 15, we have a player who makes his second appearance in the top 15 final rankings. It's Pokygum with a second at KDA Cup and very impressive stats overall. The only caveat is he didn't have that many games. I think Pokygum, unfortunately, just took some time off where he wasn't really competing a lot. But even one thing that I really liked when I was going through some of the stats, Pocky had a pretty underrated run at Vegas as well. Most people didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why going to the KDA Cup, there was like I was thinking back on, I was looking back at some of my rankings, kind of getting refreshed, and there were like a few people, and I was one of them who rated him really highly, and it's because he looked good in Vegas, and when I asked him, I was like, "Are you good?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of good right now," and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, if Pocky says he's good, then he's for sure a top 5 player. He probably has some meaningful edge, and he in fact did have huge edge on the field going into that tournament, by the way." So yeah, I mean, he was scary. He wasn't that good at regionals, but he was really good at the start of the set.
And he was 1 point away from regionals going to day number 2, which who knows what happens at day number 2. And according to him, he went back-to-back games of bottom-tier variants. And I believe Pocky when he says that. He's usually fair to own up to his mistakes.
He's honest.
I was in those games. I have no idea how he didn't make it. It was... Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say too much because, like, he might be watching and he might get sad.
Okay.
But it was pretty bad.
No, you should say it. Say it. That's the whole point. We're
no, but he just like Giga Heart still cash out like 2 games in a row, and he just loses to like RE1, and he just he just dies from 2 lives against RE1, like when he's about to just like win out and like stomp the lobby. I don't even know how he lost. Like maybe he trolled, but I don't know.
Man, that feels bad. It must have been some random fight RNG stuff then.
Yeah, his Zed probably just
got targeted.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, he was in a down position to advance, and then all of a sudden, I think a 7-8 or something like that just ended his regionals run. Who knows? Who knows? I think Pocky would have also been a great rep had he made it all the way to Worlds. Okay, well, that being said, the last time we ranked him was in set 7, so it's been a few sets. I was like, really? Only 1 time for Pocky? But I'm sure it's not going to be the last time. He is an incredible player when he wants to be. 15, once again, nice job. At number 14, we have Prestivant making his 3rd appearance after he got top 11 in set 9, but what feels like a major step back from where he is. The things highlighted in red was he performed noticeably worse than average versus a lot of the top candidates, which is part of what we highlight. It's highlighted in green. It's positive. Prestivant not even averaging 50% top 4 rate. What happened to Prestivant this set, Dishsoap?
Oh, I don't think it's that bad. Like, I don't think it's like a big step back. I think. Okay, so the thing about like ranking players this set is, like, if you're not ranking Vegas, like if you're not taking into account Vegas that much in these rankings, which I'm kind of not, you're really only ranking people in 3 tournaments, and some people only played in 2.
Yep.
So, I feel like it's kind of just hard to say, like, oh, Prestivant, like day 1 of both these cups, like it's a big step back. Probably not. Like, he might have played slightly worse, but I still think he's a pretty good player.
Okay. I think that's a completely fair thing to say, and I think you're actually right on the money. But I also will say that if it happened to another player who's trying to break the upper echelons, right? If that happened to you, if you got Daewon twice in a row or Setsuko or whatnot, I think that would raise eyebrows because the whole point was Prestivant was starting to crack some of the top parts of North America. And I think for him, in that perspective, it's a step back, Bryce.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm of two. I think it just depends on what you think the power ranking is asking for. Is the reality? People are clearly ranking with different things in mind. Like for me, like I didn't rank P-God for this. I did not consider ranking P-God for this. I don't think he's deserving of being on this list for this set. But that's because my opinion is that this list is like more like an MVP ballot than it is like a future projection ballot. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like they're a fantasy football player who has like a bad season but doesn't really drop in draft stock because it's like this feels like a fluke. Like they're probably still really good, right? So like yeah, I think P-God's like fantasy draft stock is still high. I if I had to do my top 10 going into this set, sight unseen, not knowing anything about the set, I would for sure put him in it. I think it'd be silly not to, quite frankly. I think he's like really clearly in the tier 2 of NA. And I mean as a compliment, I think like being tier 2 is really hard, and I think he's clearly put himself there. But he said he didn't enjoy the set. Every time I asked him how he was playing this set, he said he wasn't playing very well. When I watched him, it never felt like, oh man, P-God's really cooking here. It felt like he was kind of always off kilter. And he said it was just, he wasn't having fun. It was hard for him to play his game. So I think he's had an offset. I just don't, I don't think he belongs on this list, but I think he's still a beast.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to say something about P-God.
Yeah.
I feel like he's like a super hard worker. Like out of the people in his study group, I had like Setsuko, Soju, Kyun, and Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was like one of the weaker ones leading up to regional scrims, but like he's like a super hard worker, and I definitely think that like he's gonna like come back super strong next set.
Okay, great. I think he has a lot of people's confidence, and I hope, hey, he can follow through with it. But hey, you'll see even now, making it to 3 rankings is actually a pretty decent achievement, but more on that in a little bit. At number 13, we have a first-time rank finisher. It is Noster. Noster with a top 8 at both KDA Cup and Hearthstone Cup, with 2 really solid back-to-back finishes. And while he didn't make a big splash at regionals, he did turn a couple of heads. Who wants to talk about Noster here? Bryce?
I mean, I'll happily say something about Noster. I mean, I didn't get to watch his journey at KDA that much, but at Hearthstone Cup, he had a pretty significant meta edge, and he just punished people with it. And like, part of TFT is recognizing correct macro decision making. In that patch, it was actually a big part of, and I think actually this set in general sorted for that pretty highly, almost throughout. But he found big edge, and he didn't even have to play the lines perfectly. Like, he just had a way better understanding of what was going on in the meta than a lot of players, which is an impressive feat. He definitely belonged on the list. There were so few people who top 8'd every single one. It was just him and Setsuko, right? Both the cups. That's
I believe so.
Hey, listen, if you're going to be on a list with one other person and it's like a tournament rankings list,
it's pretty good.
Let it be with Setsuko.
Yeah.
Like, put me in anything with Setsuko and be like doing something
point,
right.
Yeah. Milala, you were going to say something about Noster?
Yeah, I actually think Nostr had like a super good read, like what Bryce said in Hearthstone Cup. I think he's like actually I watched his VODs, and I think he actually was the one who like opened my eyes to like the super fan flex. It kind of sucks that he had like a pretty bad regionals. I don't know if it's because like I didn't watch any of his games, but I remember I was watching his stream, and he seemed like pretty adverse to playing Hearthstone. So maybe that's why. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I think like he was definitely like the prime guy who opened my eyes to like the super fan flex real stuff.
Okay. Hey, it was the last time he made a big wave in competitive was set 4 with Chosen, where he was hitting rank 1 and also doing things like performing very well in the Challenger series. That was like the equivalent of some of the cups that we play now. Hey, maybe he's just maybe Chosen headliners are his thing. We'll see. Hopefully see Noster back in the future and maybe build on this momentum. It'd be really cool. Okay, at number 12, we have Big Bro. It's K3 Soju with a 12th finish after getting 11th in KDA Cup, 19th at Hearthstone Cup, and 14th at Regionals. Just kind of being in the mix, not going that far. But the one thing that does stand about Soju, man, his top 4 rate is absurdly good. It's actually really high. And considering how he's also kind of made in a big improvement going into Regionals, I actually think Soju is a little rated low, but if you look at everyone above him, it kind of makes sense. I just feel like Soju didn't play like he was a rank 12 player this set. I don't know if anybody disagrees or agrees with me here.
I agree with you for sure. I think he was in good form every turn. I mean, Vegas, I think he was in like mid form actually. Now that I think about it, maybe even lower than that.
No, he was in like kind of
he was in bad form maybe
form.
Actually. Like
Yeah.
I think I remember Soju's chat getting really mad at me like anytime I criticize him. But I was like, do you really not want me to criticize this? Do you, like you really want to sit here and pretend like this is how this spot's supposed to be played? Because I don't think you want to think that. That's not going to go very well for you in your games. Anyway, look, Soju was good in the cups and he was good in regionals actually.
Yeah.
And his top 4 rate is exactly what he's playing for. That's his entire style. And in order for him to have a really good tournament, he needs to get a little bit of variance pushed his way, maybe more than some other players because he's playing so conservatively. But he puts himself in positions to succeed. I think the problem is his style doesn't leave him a lot of room for error in comparison to other players. He doesn't find a lot of opportunity to make up for his mistakes. And when he makes one, it can be pretty punishing because he is actually really, really willing to cook. He was the widest player in the regionals field. People don't realize that. But he played everything. Tons of shit people didn't want to play Soju was down to play. He was the only person I could convince that like playing Punk was legit. Like going for Jinx 3 was legit. Like we were anyway, I think he was actually really good. So I think that tournament could have got better for him. I think you could easily like you roll this set multiple other times and he actually has a better finish than he did here. He was good.
Interesting. Dishsoap, is Soju still harassing you, like bothering you, just DMing you and trying to say like, Setsuko clears you, whatever, just kind of flame you?
Oh, I mean, he's just trying to like tell me how I play worse, but like I just like filter those messages out.
Oops.
What's like actually relevant here is he messaged me just kept spamming me over and over after day 1 of regionals, like asking me to like VOD review him, and like ask him for mistakes, and like I sent him like a paragraph, and I'm like, I'm not gonna like comment on your game plan because it's like completely different than mine. I don't think
Yeah.
that's relevant. I just told him that you really need your stage fours to go well, because if your stage fours don't go well, you are probably going like seventh or sixth every game. Um, and yeah, I don't know. He found like a lot of edge in the early mid game, but I think he just did a lot of cooking on stage four when he maybe didn't have to. Maybe it was good, but yeah.
Yeah. That I think that's part of what makes him fun to watch. He's got a little bit of that influencer mode that maybe he just can't remove as part of his core DNA, and that's why it's just great to watch. And I look forward to hopefully many more sets. This is the 4th rankings, which is very good for Soju. The only time he didn't make it was when he didn't qualify for Set 8 regionals. Perhaps I spoiled a little bit early, but let's go on to number 11.
No one saw it, Dan. What are you talking about?
Overdrive.
Oh,
Ripple OD.
shit, it's Ripple?
Oh, no way.
No
After
way.
performing well at Vegas, very well at Vegas, relatively speaking, right? 17th and then 3rd at KDA Cup, 25th at Hearthstone Cup, which is, not obviously his best result, but kind of being in there in the mix. And what a comeback from Set 8, right? Because he took Set 9 off, where he hyped up a lot of people once again. So it almost feels like we're having a revisit exactly what happened in Set 8, which is like, man, imagine if this guy was like truly serious about TFT. He has a really high ceiling, even though he's, quote, only ranked here at 11.
Yeah, I think Ripple Overdrive is super good. He's the king of positioning, and I think going into regionals, him and Degree had like a super good read on Heartsteel AD, and like I think those two are like super good at playing the AD flex line, like pretty much like at the top of the field.
Yep. I mean, if you missed the VOD review with me and Ripple at the end of, I believe, KDA Cup, where we were just sitting down talking about his games, just kind of helps illuminate what you don't see. And also, just, Bryce has highlighted this on other points, like other people don't see it either, even at the high levels, right? They look at spots like that and they're like, okay, he's just high rolling. And that is partially true. But if you look deeper, there's so much more to unpack about a player like what Ripple is doing. I think it's highlighted by maybe that moment at regionals where he did something like a last second reposition to get a Z wraparound on a set of 3 by
So cool.
triple melee stacking so he can get that 50-50, which ended up being the reason why I was able to win a fight against a cracked 6-2 damage center 3 board.
I feel like I've glazed Ripple like a few times now, and I think I have one more in me. I thought I was gonna pass, but I think I like. Look, I love positioning in TFT. I think it's like my favorite way of expressing skill, probably. And there's only 2 other people that I can think of in all of NA TFT history that I got excited about watching them position in the same way. And I think they're like OG Sox, who was, man, if you didn't watch OG Sox and some of the stuff he figured out with positioning, you didn't live. Because some of the early TFT stuff was weird, and he would come up with weird optimizations of it, but it was really cool. And then Pokygum. I think Pokygum is also like when he's at his peak.
Yeah.
Like a huge part of the edge he's getting on like a bunch of the 3-cost lines this set or last set for that matter, like or 2 sets ago for that matter. Like he had huge like scale score and edge on people. Like Ripple's in that tier for me. His watching him position boards of TFT can at times feel special, where he'll do something that was clearly intentional. I'll have to go back and watch it a few times and figure out exactly what he's trying to accomplish. And what I will say for him is that he has every bit of the flash in him that like Pocky has and Sox has, but I think that the thoughtfulness to Ripple's stage 2 and stage 3 positioning is better than anyone I've ever seen. I think that he understands early game fights.
Man,
and
you're
the
saying
way
a
in which
lot
they're
because
going to
Dishsoap is sitting right here in the call, and I think that's one of the things that he does very well too.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think that
I get lazy.
Yeah, Ripple's consistency on is insane. It's like it's like almost every time it's like, wow, that was optimal, and it's weird and different stuff.
Okay.
Because you have to think about like the way in which aggro swaps in like full tanking versus split tanking, and when you line up your damage and when you don't, and when you spread for AoE and all this little shit, and he just does it all so fucking well. It's insane.
Well, it wouldn't be a podcast episode without some W glaze. Well done, Bryce. The combo glaze. I
really, like I said, I thought I was gonna pass, but man, I really loved watching people play this set. My favorite person to watch the whole set.
All right, fantastic. Congratulations on man. If he's saying this nice stuff about 11th, what is he gonna say about the top 10? Here we go. Crack the top 10. It is Mr. Consistent himself, the first of only a couple players who have made it to every single rankings thus far. It's Robin Songs back with another top 10 finish after posting really good numbers, actually. 3.9, 63% top 4 rate. Just kind of having elite numbers across the board.
He was 14th at KDA. He was second at Hearthstone, and he was 13th at 13th at regionals.
The fact that Robin is just still here, always kind of being in that mix of the fold, kind of speaks a testament of him as a player overall. And I think there's not much more really to be said. It's just, it feels like yet another ranking, yet another good Robin finish. And I feel like one day that's just going to come back when we have all the receipts of every region, every regionals he's there, and every ranking he's there. And it just feels like, man, this guy is actually building quite an amazing legacy.
And this was his lowest investment set that I can remember, by the way. Like, he could get punished for this at some point. Like, it did not feel like he was that close to his peak form for a lot of it. This was his fundamentals are so good that he can do it even when he's not in form. I think he might have high rolled a little bit this set too, but like, he also for sure like was not in peak form, and he's still this consistent. Fucking insane.
Yeah, right. I think the thing with Robin is like, you watch a stream and you think like he's not playing that well. And then like, or like he doesn't play any scrims and regionals, and you think he's not gonna play that well, but somehow he just always like he's like always right there.
I'm actually like so confused how he does it. I think he probably just has like he probably just doesn't like throw like that. That's probably it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. It feels. I mean, I don't know like the most respectful way to put this, because I do think he's like a really good player.
Yeah.
It's just, I am never like impressed when I like watch him or am like scrimming with him or like in game with him, but he just always shows up, and that deserves respect. So
yes, and I think that Dishsoap touched that. It almost feels like Robin doesn't pass any eye tests in terms of like, is he like in good form? Is he like one of the best players in North America? And yet he just shows up every single time. And even when he joins calls to talk to people, he joined our co-stream. And I legitimately felt like I knew more about the game than him, because he was just like, oh, isn't this just disco from here? Isn't disco good, guys? And then everyone was like, no.
We were all like,
And then
no, man, he'll just like go to like the Diamond Plus stats of like TFT, like look at like just like I don't know. like he'll just see like, oh, Punk broken, let me just like play Punk, and then it'll like somehow like work for him or something.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
Either way, I think his hyper consistency is high baseline. I love it, and also I really love how Robin's really stepped into as being one of the main personalities in North America as well. He's an excellent rep, and I love to see him start strong. Remember he started off by winning the set 10 PBE, and he said 10 my set. So we'll see.
Okay, and it's worth it, quietly. Congrats to Robin. Like, his stream has grown quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I think that he's like definitely leaning into content creator phase, which is probably part of why he's not in the same level of competitive form that used to be. The fact that he can do both is impressive. It's really hard to do.
Yeah, it's very, very hard.
To see his stream grow, I'm happy for him.
100%. He's deserved every bit of success. At number 9, her second time since a rank 1 appearance, we got Rainplosion. After a little bit of a slow start to the season, finishing very strong with a 6 at Hearthstone Cup and a 6 at Regionals, very close to actually making it to Worlds on AVP at the very end. It was actually a pretty close race there with Degree. Rainplosion finishing at number 9. She's been trying to get back to her set 7 form, and I feel like not only is she back here, Bryce, but I also feel like you can definitely see how much of a player she's grown. Yeah, she was the rank 1 player from set 7, but I feel like she's a much better player now.
She's for sure a better player now. For sure. She was good at set 7, but set 7 was testing for weird stuff. Dragons were weird. That was a weird meta for the whole set. Did you predict her on the final day? Like, going into the final day, in terms of people you thought were going to do well? I thought she was going to do really well. I think she still could have done really well. I think that she got like a couple of tough reroll spots where I kind of thought where she committed was fine, and it just was a little bit low into variance. But yeah, I think Rain was very good at the regionals patch, even if it wasn't the style of TFT she wants to play. And I think being able to get that good at a patch that you really don't enjoy playing is hard to do. Yeah. And says something about where she is at as a player. If she's actually in form, look out. She's really, really good. It's inconsistent in terms of her form, but her peak is high.
Okay. Milala, just have any comments on Rain before we move on?
I think she was. I definitely think she's a better player than she was in set seven. I'm trying to think of like anything specific. I remember on day one, she like outplaced me twice, like playing Annie, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I feel like no one played Annie. I
Yeah.
mean, like there's like a little bit of Annie. So that was like cool to see. But honestly, I didn't really vote her that much, so I can't really give that much props. But I feel like in the back of my head, when she was in my lobbies, she performed pretty well. So
Great, great. I heard Rain is asking around for more people to VOD review with. So if anybody's out there that's looking, we'll see. She's still hungry to improve, so we'll see. Also worth noting that she was our selected participants that we were sponsoring for the Don't Talk If You Don't Know hedge fund. Right, Bryce and I put up $1,000 thanks to Boop, and it felt good to see Rain follow through. Yeah, she didn't win Vegas or pop off, but feels like nice to put the money on the right horse. I think in that case.
Yeah, and she won the comeback tournament. I mean, she had a weird like the bag like the airlines lost her bag or something. Like
Yeah.
the transition to Vegas was rough, and she like had it was a high variance format. Like you needed to come out of the gate swinging, and maybe she just needed a little bit of warm up time.
Okay, now we crack the last part of the second half. We go to our top 8. At number 8, for the first time after a great Worlds appearance, all things considered, is Weird, a.k.a. Pray to RNGesus, a.k.a. Forcin TFT. Weird comes in with kind of the big underdog story of the set. We always have one of them, right? Where it just feels like people kind of come out of nowhere. Last set, it was Connor. And then we had, people like Rainplosion even back in set 7. Weird comes in as a person that no one is supposed to do well, and he really held his own, kind of anchored by his obscene win rate. His first place win rate is out
What
of this
the
world.
fuck?
It's actually crazy that you're starting to talk about Setsuko level of win rate here, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, actually, Weird's my boy. I met him through Darth, and like this guy just like types in my stream chat calling me stupid because like I'm not playing around my portal correctly. So like, but like as soon as he told me that, I realized like this guy actually thinks a lot about the game and thinks about auctions and stuff. I think going into KDA Cup, I thought he was gonna be super good because Yone Ribbon was super strong, and then at regionals, I thought he was gonna do really poorly because like when we played scrims, he was like I think he was like averaging like a 6 or something. But he pulled through. He looked super confident on the Arsteel AD line, which he didn't really play too much in scrims, and that's like his go-to line, I think, at regionals and worlds. And I'm just super proud of him, like making a super deep run at regionals and making a super deep run at worlds.
If I remember correctly, he's kind of part of like the gamers that like shit post on a competitive TFT subreddit, right? Like,
Yeah.
That was kind of like his, or it's like him, Darth, and Juke Yu and all of them.
Yeah, I think it's like him, Darth, Dehua, I think is his name. And those just like the competitive TFT like mods or something.
Okay. Oh wow, that's funny. And so yeah, he was just your average chatter and shit poster, and look at him now. I
Chat,
love that.
it's gonna be that for all of you. You got this, chat.
Yeah. What's your excuse? I guess
It's
everyone's
a
adding
world's
D1
run
now.
for all of you next set. Okay, only thing I want to say about him is that I think his best TFT that we saw was KDA Cup. I mean, I thought he was a pretty good AD flex player, not like insane, but pretty good, and I think he probably got a little bit of good variance on those lines. But I thought that his play in KDA Cup was spectacular a couple of games. I thought that his play in the mid game and his play in stage 4 in particular, understanding what versions of the 3-cost boards were stable, what items he needed to slam, how he needed to tempo it out, what combinations of the boards he could play around to then be able to resend on in stage 5 healthy enough and with enough economy to consistently hit. And that was some really fucking good TFT that he played that tournament.
Yeah. Some of the best contested reroll play I've ever seen. It was phenomenal. Really showing mastery of a line, like true mastery of a line, where he like knew he was going to go ace. So he completely pivoted in and out multiple times of the line and ended in first place when we thought he was going dead last or tied or holding hands. Really impressive stuff. Okay, so there we go. That's the bottom half. Let's start to go into the top half. At number 7, a player who, maybe by the standards that he set so far, is lower than usual, but still a strong finish. A strong 7th, if you will. It's W Asian Virgin, a.k.a. Wajan Iverson. He's got a 12th at KDA Cup, a top 10 at Hearthstone Cup, a top 10 at the North American Regional Finals. And I feel like the thing that I will say is, yes, he was ranked 2 and 3 the past couple of sets, and it felt like he was on this incredible meteoric rise to just kind of claim top 3 eternally. I think that this almost shows kind of the baseline of what Wajan's floor is, right? Like it's almost like
Yeah.
this is like an average set that you cannot expect him to deliver, and yeah, there wasn't any spectacular wins, but it was a very solid set.
How insane is that this is his floor? I completely agree. That's exactly my take. That's fucking nuts that this is his floor. You know, I think that there is a very strong case that he's number one, like number one.
Woo. All right, well, someone who probably thinks that maybe as well as Milala. Milala, talk to me a little bit about Wei Jin without flaming.
Yeah, I think. Oh no, I would. I think Wei Jin is, in my opinion, he's always the best player in North America. Like he always has like a super good read. He has like insane fundamentals. Yeah, I think like the thing with this results you see here is just like they all seem like for any other player these would be like super
Good.
insane results. Yeah, but like for Wei Jin, you're just thinking like he's just like so close to making it to final lobby in all of these at all of these tournaments. And honestly, like maybe he should have, but yeah, it's just this guy's a beast.
What do you think makes Wei Jin such a strong player from your perspective? You've heard it from many others. I just want to hear from your perspective.
Yeah, I just think he thinks about pretty much every decision he makes like very, very thoroughly. Very rarely makes mistakes and like very rarely just like does things based off of like intuition without giving it any thought. And that's definitely where his edge comes from, I feel like.
Okay. And I like this game, recognizes game. Dishsoap, talk to me a little bit about Wei Jin from your perspective.
Oh, he's an incredible player. I actually think, like don't take this the wrong way. I actually think he had a bad read for regionals, but like still going 10 from that, like is like actually more impressive. So it's like it's actually not a flame.
Yeah.
I watched a few of the games. I think he took like a few wrong decisions, like with line selection, like a really really weird like KDA Seraphine game where he played like Nico Chosen. I honestly did. I mean, I didn't review the game like the day two games, but there was like the one game against me where he played like some Lux Lulu board, and my backline could not survive, which was
Yeah.
like incredible. I don't think anyone else would ever do that.
You're right.
We talked about this
I
so
remember.
much on stream, dude. We talked about this
We
so
gushed
much.
over it. Yeah, I remember.
It was such a great game because
Yeah.
we were like, no one fucking rerolls Lux in this spot,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
no one.
Like that's an incredible game. He's an incredible player, and I think it's actually in. I think he just played Seraphine too much. Like I think the comp was not very good.
Yeah.
Like I think if he just like didn't play Seraphine, he'd probably just make final lobby and be ranked higher.
Okay. Wow. Very high praise and deservedly so. We'll see. I have a feeling he's going to come back set 11 with a vengeance.
For sure.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. At number 6, and then this is actually kind of joined the club of maybe a little too low based off the eyeball, but it all makes sense. I promise you. Is Setsuko, the second player that we have featured, making it to every single rankings. Although, again, low for the standards that we have come to set for Setsuko. Because in the previous set, he was ranked 1 and 2, right in front of Wei Jin Iverson. He did make final lobbies, though, and it was to the point where it almost got boring. Setsuko, this set, actually stopped responding to me for comments about his tournaments because it was just the same thing every time. Just another final lobby, another like day in the office. So why 6 though? Why 6, Bryce?
I think he played this set much more one-dimensionally than he typically plays sets of TFT. I mean, he normally does, like, yes, where Setsuko finds insane edges in, like, the really, really, like, walking that tightrope and getting to, like, level 9 and capping out boards and winning lobbies. But he doesn't normally kind of YOLO it. I don't know how else to fucking describe it. Like, he normally is also so good at downside protection in his games, and he's able to constantly find lines to get like fourths, because you have to when you're like playing it when he's playing at his peak, because just the LP game, right, that like he plays and Dishsoap plays, like just it gets so fucking skewed. So he can't go 8th in that way or 7th in that way. And I think that he just was like more willing to say fuck it. And I think his ladder looked like that this set, and I think his tournament play looked like that this set. But Heartsteel was broken for most of the set, and he was so fucking good at it that like he kind of got away with it, which is why he could top 8 both tourneys. But I think that his ceiling is higher than this if he wants to like play more of the set.
Do you agree with that as a person that's often compared to Setsuko?
I think he got bit of by scrims. Like he was actually clearing the scrims so hard, just raising every game, going to one life every game, and winning out every game. He won like 4 in a row, 5 in a row, 3 in a row. Like he would just go on these streaks of just raising and winning out. But like you would look at these spots, and like you would scout him in like 4-5 or something, and be like, surely like he'll get punished here. But he would always just win out. And I think like as like people like locked in more and people like actually tried as opposed to scrim environment, he actually did end up getting punished more in those spots. But like this guy is not the sixth best player in the region.
Yeah,
Skill wise, like he's fucking insane. And yeah, he'll be back.
So for you, is he one? Is Wasian one? Are you one?
No, I definitely think Setsuko's like the best skill wise.
Okay. So you still have him above Wasian.
Yeah, I think the only reason he's actually ranked, I don't think he ranked himself. I was looking at the brackets. He just didn't rank himself.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And also, Setsuko, apparently two things I'm going to add to it before we close here. One, he doesn't even really believe that he was the best at Hearthstone. He just felt like he kept getting into like good spots, almost to the point where he started believing in his own luck. He's like, man, I don't think I'm actually that good at Hearthstone. I just kept getting like the juicer spots that like, pretty much most people know how to play. And I just felt like I was high rolling. And the second thing is he says that he's motivated for set 11. I don't know how much that's actually going to stay. Maybe that's just like a thing he watched Milala play. He's like, okay, fuck it. Now it's time for me to try to strike back. But he said he's motivated for set 11, and I would love to see Setsuko back in peak form. All right, that's our top 6. Let's go to the top 5, shall we? The last third. The first of this top 5 is a player that has made a lot of big waves to crack the upper echelon in general. It's Team Liquid's Replay. Well, talk to me a little bit about Replay.
Replay's a beast. I don't know. He's just like so I guess like when we were doing bot review, he was like the first guy who like told me about like the Kali Zed Kiana package, which like he was playing at Hearthstone Cup, which was like super broken, and I think that was like a huge edge that he had for that tournament. I like watched his final day of regional finals because I was like we were all pretty much thinking that he was pretty much guaranteed to go to Worlds, and I think he just like played like he was too, I guess, like reliant on 80 flex, I think, on that final day, which kind of like bit him in the butt.
I watched those games too, and it was pretty painful to watch. It was the most frustrated I've ever seen him be with himself. He at one point was just straight up screaming at himself, just like talking about like, what am I doing? These are like really easy misplays that I'm making, and like it's costing me so many things. And it was just game after game, bot 4 after bot 4, where he just knew that he was messing up. And I think that's good for him. I'm just gonna say, I think it's good for you, man. You were definitely crushing it, right? Like you did well at Hearthstone Cup, and you were kind of on a burner for regionals. But you just can't end your TFT career like that. Replay. You're in chat. You're just gonna really let it end like this? You're gonna retire and just say, "Yeah, I'm going back to the workforce," and that's how you end on one massive streak of L's? No, you're not. No, you are not. You're going to come back and you're going to prove once again why you belong in this tier. Look at this. 1 in set 8, top 6 in set 9. Yeah, you got 5th at set 10, but I'm looking for another top 3 or better, set 11.
He wants just rank 1. That's the only thing I think he gives a shit about, to be honest. I told him this privately. I will say this out loud as well. I think that despite the fact that he played quite badly on the final day of regionals and flamed out of the event, it happens. We all have bad days. Anyone who knows anything about sports knows some people have bad. No matter how good the player, you can have a bad day sometimes. I think it was one of his days, but I think he proved all he needed to prove, and he's a tier 1. I think he belongs in tier 1 in my eyes. I think he's played at a tier 1 level over the course of a few sets now, and that kind of longevity is hard to replicate.
Yes, 100%. Just anything you want to say about Replay? Now that we've cooked them a little bit.
I mean, I agree with what most of you guys said. I feel like I kind of struggle with this a lot, like just putting a lot of pressure on yourself, like you said, like on the final day of the lobby. I feel like you just kind of make it harder for yourself though, by just full egoing the whole set. Like if you just full ego in the whole set, like you just like feel like the internal pressure to just back it up. And to some degree he did, but just at the end it like came back to bite him. And like maybe he thinks he like shouldn't have egoed. I don't know.
For you, is that just trash talking, or are you also talking about like his preparation, his seriousness with ladder?
Just like the talking or whatever. Yeah.
The yapping. Yeah, there's one thing that I think one thing that I will miss is that it feels like Replay is one of the few players willing to kind of put himself out there on the line again, kind of like as like a heel, right? I feel like a lot of these players they're so nice and humble, like Milala, our humble king, our fake humble king. I don't know, maybe he's really humble, maybe he's not, but
he knows He knows how good he is. He
But
just
but
doesn't
man,
like to-
my wife Taylor went through so much roller coaster emotion through replay. She is simultaneously like she watches him so much, but she's such a hate watcher. But she also loves when he does well. But she like wants him to go eighth and just wants him to shut up. I feel like these kinds of polarizing figures are great for the scene, and I would just love if more players are willing to kind of embrace that role. She doesn't hate watch as much anymore. She actually feels bad about regionals now. I'm not just trying to say that she does, I just think that he adds a lot to the scene. And again, if you find a way to come back, maybe it's part time or whatever, but I would love to see more because I don't think you're done yet. Okay,
Bro, no one ever quits, man. Like, also, like, when people say they quit, they, like, still just, like, half play for a set. And then if they do bad, they just give the excuse that they quit. So, like, don't do that, but, like, you can probably still play.
All right, I agree. No one just simply quits TFT unless they actually do. The more you say it, the less it's likely to happen.
True.
You're only trying to convince yourself, man. Okay, now we reached the top four. At top four, this is probably one of the biggest curveballs that I didn't necessarily see coming, even towards halfway even to the end of the set. But for the very first time, we have a newcomer onto the top 15. That's somewhat of a shocking statement. It's Kiyun. Kiyun has never made it to the top 15 because the last time he made it to regionals was several sets ago. And so Kiyun cracking the top four, and my God, when you look at how everything shook out for him, there's a case that maybe he could be even higher. Look at some of the stats. Now, I will say one thing. Some of this is colored because Kiyun didn't always necessarily make it to top 32. But at the same time,
he was beasting in day one.
Yes, he was beasting in day one, so that is partially what colors through some of the stats. But I will say, Kiyun is officially back. I mean, this is an incredible set for him, all things considering. And he didn't make it solely due to the very end game of the AVP. But, man, we were so close to getting Kiyun at Worlds. And I couldn't be more happy for him because I feel like he really actually played very well and worked hard. And I feel like he was rewarded for it, Bryce.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I rated him higher. I actually put him second. I think that his resume this set, I think that we talk about him as a player that when he has the right read, he can perform really well. And I think he did. I think that he was not afraid to go after his interpretation of the meta, and he's a line optimizer, and he optimized the hell out of some lines that other people either playing them contested or being willing to find lines that other people don't want to play. So I thought he was always scary and always playing pretty damn well when I watched him in tournaments. So I feel like the eye test was good, the reads were good. Like I don't know. I think it was a beast to set.
All right. Were you saying something about Kiyun?
Oh no, I just commented that he was I think he demolished day 1 and 2 of one of the cups.
Yeah, he really did.
That's really the only thing I watch from him. I'm gonna be honest, and unless I specifically just choose to bot review someone randomly, which is actually pretty rare. I mostly just evaluate people based on the vibes when they're against me in game. I don't know if the vibes are that strong for Kiyun in my games, but obviously the results speak for itself. But if I had to rank people from their study group, who I was scared of the most going into regionals, I don't think I'd rank him the first. But I mean, he outplays all of them, so that's something.
Okay.
And part of this is the MVP ballot nature of it's a recognition of how the results were.
It's a recognition of results. Also, yes, and also I don't blame you, Dishsoap, because you didn't play against Kiyun when he was at that level. So maybe over time, because you maybe don't have that history. But I think a lot of people are excited to see him potentially get back to that form because in set 3, set 4, Kiyun was very close to even making it very far before he gets griefed by Cottontail and a couple of other infamous stories with Solus, mainly your practice partner.
Okay, just so it's clear, I don't think he's bad. It's just
yeah. That's not what we're saying. It's just more
this is top 4, right? This is high.
This is very high. And we have to have high standards as such. Going to number 3 on the podium, the bronze medal. And I want Milala to talk about this. The other person who's new to the top finish based off his Worlds performance, it's Degree. After a 5th place finish at KDA Cup, top 4 at regionals based off average placements and getting through. and then 7th at the World Championship. Milala, talk to me a little about Degree.
Yeah, the thing with Degree is like, even though he went seventh at Worlds, or well, that's like amazing, but it doesn't even show the fact that he completely dominated the first 2 days of Worlds, where he like scored like an like 70 plus points when the cutoff was 60. He legit looked like during those 2 days. I think he was like everyone thought that he was like the best player in the world. And then he had a super good grasp on the like Lulu reroll line, and he had super good at the 80 flex line. I think out of like pretty much the entire field at Worlds.
Degree, you worked a little bit, or sorry, Dishsoap, you worked a little bit with Degree during like the World's prep stuff. Do you have any insight or like interesting moments that stood out to you about him?
We really didn't do that much prep, but what I will say is he was fantastic at knowing exactly like the moment he was supposed to go 9. That's like the thing that I noticed the most. He rolled like the minimum amount that he had to, but was never like too weak and was always able to play for good placements because of that. And it was really, really impressive.
Okay. I love watching the underdog story. Degree, the one thing I will say is don't make it so close for those snapshots. This guy is always 400 LP down, and on the last day climbs like 400 in one sitting and makes it most of the time. He doesn't make it every time. But I would love to see him come back and justify this kind of ranking, because I think 3rd is great. I think it's very deserved. I would love to see a little bit more going to set 11.
For what it's worth, I think that Degree, the last time I remember a player making this big of a leap in terms of their regionals play to worlds play was DQA in set 4. I think that Degree's play at regionals showed promise but was inconsistent. He would get on the wrong lines at times, and he would have weird execution mistakes at times where it just felt like a little bit more like confidence going in, a little bit better execution, and a little bit better decision making, and like look out. And I feel like that's what happened at Worlds. I think he could have easily wound up winning Worlds. I think he looked really good.
He looked really good. Bryce and I were looking at each other like, man, or not looking, but like talking about like, man, this guy actually can win the whole thing. It's just looking really good. For sure.
And I wonder if we just witnessed his peak, because it's pretty clear that he had to like take time off from work in order to get to that level. And he's someone who clearly has fundamentals, and he's a really good player. So, and he's in a good study group. He's, gets a nice like drip of information that keeps him competitive. The fact that he can play at the level he can at all is like honestly incredible. It's something to aspire to, and it'd be cool to see him qualify for it again and see him try to find his peak again, because he could win.
Okay, that's great. Going to the last 2, I think almost all the suspense is out here at this point in terms of like what the actual ranking is. So what I want to do here is first we're going to show number 2, and as tradition, we have the other person talk about them. So Milala, if you can do your best Esports Law Bryce Blum impression, please, without further ado, introduce our number 2 of set 10, Dishsoap.
Yeah, so Dishsoap, the perfect player. I think like everyone in NA legit just like everyone talks about it, but everyone in NA just steals everything this guy does. Like even like during our Worlds VOD review, like I think he like shared like a bunch of his stuff with us, with me and Degree. And I basically stole like everything he said and graded into my brain to use for like every single game that I played.
Really, I don't think I said that much.
No, but like
what were the things? Because now it doesn't matter. Leak it all.
That's over.
Okay. Like the biggest thing was just being like super aggro in the early game when you're trying to play AD and just save HP. But like the other thing was the specific like snowball econ augments. I think is like 2 cost reroll only, or like it could be 3 cost reroll as well. There's like one game, like regionals, where Degree took like escort quest or something, and then I was like, bro, you cannot play AD with this. You're just gonna be behind in stage 3 so much. Like this is just an AP hard force. And like both of them were like, oh really? That's like and then but this is something I saw like Replay do a lot, so I'm like surprised like he didn't tell them.
Interesting.
But yeah, like,
Replay's tech hiding.
Wow, even within the group. Oh my god. Maybe if that was the difference between 7th and more at World. Who knows?
Well, is that what you think the list was too, or are there other things that you remember stealing?
There's also like the switching gear stuff that I played. Yeah, that's exact. I legit that guy or Dishsoap was the one who told me that like that's how you're supposed to play switching gears. Unfortunately, like yeah, and like another cool story is that like my very first interaction with Dishsoap was in like set 6.5, and then I was coming off of like my Challenger Series choke, and I think he just played in like Fight Night or something, and then he told me, he's like, "Don't worry, I know what it feels like to go 8-8 on like the first few games of final lobby, and like now here we are.
And
That's
now
awesome.
here we are, 1-2, holding hands. I like that story. That's lovely, and it's fun because both of you were on the come up around that time, right? Set 6, neither of you were like obviously hitting your peak stride. That's really fun. And also another thing to think about is who is that happening for right now? Like who is maybe on the cusp of maybe starting their journey where Milala and Dishsoap were at set 6? That could be you, set 10, set 11. Tomorrow is an exciting day. Okay, Dishsoap, last thing I want to say. Oh, go ahead.
Wait. I have to be able to say. Do you want him to go last, right?
I want Bryce to go last.
Okay, go for it. Oh, great,
I want to say something, which is it's been really cool watching this slow ascent, just even in the rankings itself. You're the third player out of 3 with Setsuko and Robin who have been here since the beginning. We've been doing this rankings, and I'm just really happy for you, man. I think you put so much work into it. You also are very intentional about a lot of things, and I feel like that has been very rewarding. A lot of people are always talking about how they're not trying. It's not like worth it, whatever, but you're always kind of putting your best foot forward. And I think that competitively, you are a great person that people are modeling after. And it's not a surprise to see so many people be inspired by you, right? One of the biggest things, I don't know if you heard, but in every regionals interview that we did, everyone references you in North America. When we do interviews at Worlds, right, with other regions, everyone's referenced you. Japan, SEA, China, LATAM, EMEA, they always talk about you. It's just, and it's so deserved. I think this was an incredible set. I look forward to when you can get rank 1 as well, and finish it off with like a capstone victory, maybe at World Championships. And I hope that you keep it up, man.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Damn, Dan, that's
a new Glazer.
That's a W glaze. Fuck. How do I follow that? Okay, I guess I'll start by saying that I don't think it's an accident that the set where you kind of got over the hump was the one with the highest skill expression. That was not that's not random. It's because you have always had a lot of room to express skill in a lot of these areas that the game hasn't always consistently tested for, but you've always shown it when the game did kind of consistently test for these things. Like the way in which this set sorted, like, rewarded macro play was different and important, and I think that's always been a strength. I think mid-game play as well. And so I think, like, look, if there's a lot of arcs of, like, do you know the history of, like, the person who finished behind Jesse Owens in the Olympics? He won a bunch of, if you eliminate Jesse Owens, then this guy would have won like a whole bunch of gold medals and would have set a bunch of world records at Olympics, but because he had to do it against Jesse Owens, no one remembers. Like, I think that this set could have easily sometimes, like, actually been, you would have won. Like, I think Worlds could have worked out a little bit differently for you. You could have easily topped 8 Worlds, and this could have been an incredible start to finish set. You're a beast. You'll be back. I hope that we do more sets like this because it's fun to watch. Your edge is more subtle than a lot of the other players, right? Like, Setsuko is very flashy. You're like the opposite of that, but it's always why I've loved watching your play, because it's cool to do a lot of the more subtle stuff really well and find your edge, and that's part of the game. So, well done. Super fun to watch from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, like, this just makes me more motivated, because, like, you just see the results, and, like, there's, like, something, like, tangible to work for. It's not like some like a illusion, or like not some fantasy. So
yeah, I like that.
I like a formula. I'm gonna stick to it next set, and it's hopefully gonna be more of the same.
Amazing. All right, now time to wrap it up with role reversal. It's might come as a big shock to you, but at number 1 is the world champion, the TFT Vegas Open champion, the winner of KD Up, tying for first at regionals, but losing out narrowly and getting second. And third at MSI. It's a full decorated trophy case all in one set. It is the reigning champion, Milala, at number 1. Incredible, just to say the least. Incredible. Dishsoap, it's your turn to sit in the glazing hot seat. Tell me a little bit about Milala and his set.
I mean, his set is the set that literally every single, like, professional TFT player dreams of. Incredible, definitely, like, the best set of all time. And throughout it, like, just watching you just made it look easy, is what I'll say. Pretty much showed no pressure. Didn't really, like, whenever I watch your games, like, Like, yeah, you say you make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes, but you never threw any spot that I saw, which is like so impressive, and really really proud it worked out for you. Winning both Vegas and Worlds is actually just so crazy.
It is a really absurd. For me, man, what a journey we've come along. Gangly was messaging our group being like, man, when was it when like Soju and you guys were like being mad about things like the rankings? And I looked back and it was like set 7 or something like that. Actually, I think I'm able to pull it up.
I was going to say, please tell me you put it up, Dan, because it's the picture of you is great, and it's so funny. Pause. There's an intermission for Dan's glaze, for the Bryce glaze, and then we'll go with the finale of the Dan glaze, which is correct, actually, because normally I would get last kind of shift on the like glaze pedestal. But in this case, Dan was like one of the earliest Milala believers, so he for sure deserves it. What I will say, Milala, is that I really enjoyed watching Wei Iverson find his form, and I feel very similarly watching you this set to how I felt when I was watching when I feel like Wei really put his foot on the gas, like his second set of playing at this type of elite level. I think that pound for pound, you guys play a pretty similar style, actually. I think part of what you're both bringing to the table is that you're trying to bring like no biases into the game in terms of what you're deciding to do with the game. You really try to have like a neutral perspective on any given meta, and even like this set, a lot of this set there was a lot of reroll in the meta, and even though it's not necessarily what you want to do, you're able to bring like a clean slate to a meta and to a individual game, and it feels like make really kind of almost robotic feeling decisions about like what you're playing, and then you don't throw the spots when you're there as well. So there's just like so much thoughtfulness to the way in which you play. It like you definitely give off energy of someone who watches more TFT than plays TFT, and I think that you get rewarded with consistency. And then the last thing I'll say is that the mental hump you had to get over, something a lot of athletes never get over. You talked a lot about your experience with choking and how hard it was, and usually once you start going down that whole like rabbit hole, it's hard to get yourself back out of it because it just like compounds as you go. It's like the yips in golf or whatever, just like gets worse and worse. So the mental fortitude you showed to like come back, believe in yourself again, and just like keep the momentum going for the whole set. It was like, you can't do this a fucking again, right? And then you just kept showing up and playing your best TFT, and it kept working out. It was not a variance thing. You were just dominant this set, start to finish. So well done, man. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think we ever will again.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we ever will again. I pulled the ballot the very first time where Milala's name was even starting to be whispered, right? At one point, people were saying, who the fuck even is Milala, man? Like, who is this random guy? And then I pulled up I pulled the ballot the first time. Soju was like, what? Why am I so low on the rankings? What, you put the Milala over me, right? Like, you got us so mad. This is our 6th edition. Man, I'm glad that we keep some of this, just a record.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, like, I remember what I watched. I remember I messaged Bryce even, too. I do this a few times. I was just like, man, this guy plays some special TFT when he really clicks in. And then at the time, you were inconsistent, right? I remember I DM'd you afterwards before that next tournament. You're like, oh, I don't know. I feel like I'm a little shaky, and you're lacking that confidence. To go from that to where you are now, man, it's a complete transformation that, as Dishsoap has said, it's every TFT player's dream. You're living the fantasy. You're living the dream. And I hope that you can continue that momentum up. You made us really proud. And most importantly, you made such a strong casement for me and Bryce that we don't even have to say much anymore. Now, all we have to say when people are like, TFT's luck-based game, or like, whatever, you can't be consistent. Like, there's so many people who love to get off on the idea that TFT is a bad game, that it's not competitively viable, that it's just not worth the pursuit. And you are just a living example proving against that. So not only am I happy for you, but thank you, because now all I can do is just point to Milala and just say scoreboard check. Like, I think that's an incredible accomplishment, and you deserve a round of applause from everyone here in the chat and across the world one more time for our reigning North American World Champ. Let's go. USA, baby.
Let's go.
All right, so there you have it. Our top 15 officially. You can check out the actual ballots if you're curious who voted for anyone besides Milala. And basically, like, it's almost consensus. Milala, Dishsoap 1-2. But some of the rest of the battles were kind of interesting. So if you want to check it out, esports.gg/TFTPR, which is where Yenwei gets paid by clicks. He gets paid in two ways: clicks on esports.gg and ads on our YouTube channel. That's how Yenwei gets paid.
Please, everyone click.
Hashtag
Everyone watch ads.
feed Yenwei. Hashtag feed Yenwei, because he does some good work. On that note, let's do very quickly just a recap of the fantasy season. I promised we would do this because Bryce definitely had a great season. He had a great season. First at KDA Cup, and then, Hearthstone Cup you didn't win, but you outplaced me. But you crushed it at regionals. You were the captain of our fantasy team. I came up clutch with a couple of good calls.
You helped I feel like you helped our regional season as much as I did. Yes. I actually think my Hearthstone draft was low key pretty good. I made 4 out of 5 people on the final day. And there was like one decision that I regretted, and it was the one that wound up coming back and costing me. But it was just there were so many people who did so well at that draft that it's like, okay, it is what it is. It is what it is. But a fun season nonetheless, a couple of highs and lows. And most importantly, stay free, Soju and Kiyu. And you guys, more and more every time we do this, I'm reminded why we're best at what we do, and you're good at what you do, and we can. Yeah, I will say that like drafting fantasy, like you can do it well and you can do it poorly. It's not an accident that I was better when I loved the set and watched more. I like actually knew who was good and who wasn't, instead of just like, I'll draft off of feel, and then like, well, that wasn't very good.
Really? I don't know if you could play like didn't Hume win the draft by spent all his money?
Well, yeah, it's like TFT in an individual tournament. Sometimes someone does just high roll. Right? That definitely happens sometimes.
Oh, okay.
All right, we got to get Dishsoap the draft now with us.
We really do need a Dishsoap draft for sure.
So the draft is always skill when you win, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like TFT. Yeah, exactly.
The draft is skill and we win. I think that's the statement we're gonna go with. That's the statement we're gonna go with. All right, a couple announcements to wrap it up. The first is that there's going to be a big PB tournament that I know I'm going to cover. It's going to have CN players, international players. It's a tournament that Robin won last time. Iguana is putting on a Masters competition March 16th and 17th. Make sure you guys tune in. And also, all throughout PB, there's going to be a ladder-based competition that Kai is hosting called Project PBE. Basically, he's trying to give MMR to ladder to PBE, so you can pay attention to that. A couple of really good players. I know Kerm, for example, signed up for that. You can check it out if you want. Kai's hosting that. And then last but certainly not least, you heard it on regionals. We'll talk about it once again. Dishsoap and I are starting a new website called TFT Academy. It's launching in just 2 weeks. It's going to have a bunch of information, some practice tools, and most importantly, you get to steal Dishsoap's tech again in written form. Dishsoap, why don't you talk a little bit about TFT Academy?
Oh, it's about to be like the best website. It's basically just going to be like a tier list. It'll give you your BIS. It'll give you your comp list. It'll give you some explanations, but it'll be very polished, and you'll know that the information is actually good. Like if you just Google TFT tier list and just click on the first option, I promise you they're just typing some nonsense on there. And the goal of the website is that we are not going to be publishing nonsense, and we're also going to have a bunch of like neat like practice features as well. Not all of them are like confirmed yet, so I don't really want to say anything, but there's going to be some cool stuff.
Yes. Dishsoap and I looked around some websites and we're just like, man, some people are just not even trying anymore. Some websites legitimately still have things like legend placeholders, and they don't have augments updated, or you know what I mean? They legitimately, like some websites just straight up phone it in, and we're like, and these are some of the most traffic sites, and I personally have a theory. They're some of the driving reason why we get backseed as hard as we do in streaming, because they're just like, well, I saw on a tier list. It's like, nah, none of that. We're gonna make it real good. More importantly, Dishsoap's gonna come up with most of the homework, and I'm gonna try to explain it in a very articulate way. That is the 1-2 that we have set up. But also, it's gonna be really good for practicing and learning. And I feel like it's really cool. I'm excited to go on this adventure, and perhaps Dishsoap. Maybe even a bonus thing that we can talk about in the coming days about some other things we're going to work on. Let's go ahead and wrap up our longest episode yet, but a really good one. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around. And also, I think it was chock full of like so much good meat. So thank you so much for coming on. Dishsoap, any final words before we end this episode?
No, I mean, it's just a pleasure to be here. Yeah, usually you guys don't invite me to these tournaments because I don't win anything. So it's glad to be here for...
Yeah, he's always
for now.
Always been like one below the invitee threshold for like each individual event.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're gonna get you on a preview episode. Yeah. We'll make sure you get the fantasy. We'll beat you at that, and then you can
For sure.
flame our cast.
Nah.
All right, Milala.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's always fun to be on the show. I'm glad I was able to finish the Cinderella story, and yeah.
Awesome. And we'll see you at Worlds in set 11. Yeah.
Do not throw this like Regis qualification. Just like
Yeah.
20 hours a day for like a week, no matter if you have to. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just so high EV.
Yeah, it's too broken.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta do it. Milala, I think your most impressive accolade of the set is actually most ever appearances on DTIYDK in a single set. I didn't even realize that until now, but I think we've had you on like 3 times this set. Because how do you not? You just keep winning fucking everything, man. Congrats. I hope you keep it up.
Thank you.
All right. For me, we recently have also hit 1,000 subs. Thank you to everyone who are supporting the podcast. We're also going to start trying to do the podcast shorts, right? You see like those NBA podcasts or those other talk shows. So we're going to be posting YouTube shorts and TikTok as well. So we're going to try to have a little bit more reach. We're growing our team. We're growing our team for the podcast. And the other thing is we have expanded to EMEA. So if you are an EU viewer and you want to see like, well, I want to do something for my own region, Impetuous Panda and Alan DQ also do that. So big shout out to them. Thank you, Yenwei. Thank you to everyone. Oh, what's up?
Can I have one final thought? Sorry, I know you're like in wrap up mode,
Go
but
ahead.
I wanted to say like one thing before the end of the pod. Sorry. Is that okay?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. The really fast thing is I feel like we've been critical at times when it was deserved, and I think that's important. It's our role. And if like this is wrapping up set 10, I want to wrap it up with what I think the set was about, which is like this was a really good set of TFT. It was not my favorite set ever, but it was a really good set of TFT. All the tournaments were really fun. All the metas were fun to watch. Like, TFT is scary because we change so regularly. I'm nervous for set 11. I don't know I'm going to like it as much, but like, my God, did I have fun over the course of the last 4 months with set 10 of TFT. So thank you to everyone at Riot who made that happen because it was really, really great. And thanks to you guys for like playing such great TFT because it's fun to watch when you guys get invested at that level too. So thanks.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Twitter.com/DTIYDK show, YouTube.com/@DTIYDK. And if you're listening on Spotify, please give us 5 stars because apparently the algorithm cares about that. From Frodan, Bryce, Milala, Dishsoap, and everybody, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time for Set 11 TFT. Have a good night.